Chapter 504. Yu Mengqing glanced at Zhao Jiqing and said, "Actually, we weren't originally here. However, when we left Shenzhen, we felt something calling us, so we followed the direction of the call and finally arrived at Xing province." "You felt something calling you?" Murong Yu's face revealed a shocked expression. Yu Mengqing looked at Zhao Jiqing again and said embarrassedly, "Actually, I didn't feel anything calling me. It was Sister Jiqing." "Jiqing, what's going on?" Murong Yu looked at Zhao Jiqing and asked in shock. One must know that he had to go through many transmissions to get here from Lingnan City. One could only imagine how far it was to get here. However, if there was really a call here, then it was too powerful. To be able to summon someone from so many provinces, what was the origin of this call? Zhao Jiqing pondered for a moment, as if she was organizing her words. After a long while, she slowly said, "It should be the 2nd year after we left Shenzhen. That call suddenly appeared in my heart. Vaguely, I feel as if something is calling me over. At first, I thought it was just an illusion, so I didn't pay much attention to it. However, that calling feeling didn't disappear. Later, after discussing with Sister Mengqing, we walked in this direction. The closer we got to Xing province, the stronger the calling feeling became. In the end, we arrived at Xing province after a thrilling journey." Although Zhao Jiqing spoke calmly, Murong Yu knew that they must have experienced many dangers along the way. After all, the immortal world was so big and people's hearts were sinister. Most importantly, they didn't teleport here, but walked step by step. Could it be that the calling is only in Xing province? Murong Yu instantly reacted. Since Zhao Jiqing and the others bought a manor in Xing province city, it meant that they had reached the end. Zhao Jiqing shook her head. "The calling isn't in Xing province city, but in the ocean of death." "In the ocean of death?" Murong Yu exclaimed. His face immediately darkened. Although Zhao Jiqing and Yi Qianqian had royal armaments, the Dead Sea was one of the immortal world's great forbidden grounds. Even immortal emperors could enter and never come out. With their strength, it was impossible for them to enter. Most importantly, they could not fly. Could it be related to the god's relic that is about to appear in the Dead Sea? Murong Yu thought. In the Xing prefecture, the feeling of being summoned was extremely strong. I knew that it was in the Dead Sea. However, the ocean of death is too dangerous. We don't dare to go in. Zhao Jiqing said slowly. Murong Yu nodded. Even if there were some good treasures inside, Zhao Jiqing and the others should not have gone in. After all, it was too dangerous. Once they entered the ocean of death, they would be mercilessly killed by the ocean of death before they could even approach the thing that summoned her. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Murong Yu pondered. He was now a little hesitant. To be able to summon Zhao Jiqing from countless prefectures away, the thing that summoned Zhao Jiqing must be extremely powerful. However, he could not tell the difference between friend and foe. Was it good for Zhao Jiqing, or was it bad for Zhao Jiqing? If it was a good thing, then this was a great opportunity for Zhao Jiqing. However, what if it was not a good thing? With the strength of the summoned thing, if it wanted to harm Zhao Jiqing, Murong Yu and the others would not be able to stop it. However, this was Zhao Jiqing's matter. Murong Yu could not make any decisions for her. What do you think? Murong Yu looked at the two girls and asked. This should be a good thing. I'm afraid this is an opportunity for Sister Jiqing. It might also be related to the god's relic that is about to appear. I don't think we should give up. After thinking for a while, Yu Mengqing said. Murong Yu nodded. He also felt that this was an opportunity. It would be a pity to give it up. I feel that the being that summoned me does not have any ill intentions towards me. However, that is the ocean of death. We cannot enter. Zhao Jiqing frowned. She had a feeling that if she could find the existence that had summoned her, she would definitely gain great benefit. However, they could not enter the ocean of death. After all, even immortal emperors might not be able to come out alive after entering the ocean of death. So, you two plan to enter the ocean of death? Morong Yu smiled and looked at Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing. But we can't enter, Yu Mengqing said gloomily. Zhao Jiqing's eyes lit up. She looked at Morong Yu and said, Morong, do you have a way? Hearing this, Yu Mengqing's eyes also lit up. She knew that Morong Yu had the Hichu Luoshu, a spatial treasure. As long as they entered the Hichu Luoshu, even the ocean of death would not be able to harm them. However, although Morong Yu was powerful, he was still far from those immortal kings and the like. He could not enter the ocean of death. Although the ocean of death is terrifying, perhaps it is not so terrifying to me, Morong Yu said confidently. Although the ocean of death's chi of death was terrifying, Morong Yu had the power of life and chaos. He did not believe that the chi of death would be able to invade his body. But Zhao Jiqing was about to say something when she was interrupted by Morong Yu. No buts. Now enter my space. We will immediately enter the ocean of death. After all, something is about to happen in the god's relic. If we are late, we will not be able to obtain anything. If he had not met Zhao Jiqing, if something had not summoned Zhao Jiqing, perhaps Morong Yu would not have entered the ocean of death. After all, the ocean of death was a forbidden area. However, since something like this had happened, no matter what, Morong Yu would enter the ocean of death to take a look. As he spoke, Morong Yu put Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing into the Hichu Luoshu world. Then, he spread his wings of light and soared into the sky. He quickly left Xing State City and flew towards the ocean of death. Not long after Morong Yu left, a group of murderous people rushed over from the other side of Xing State City. Then, they surrounded the manor that Zhao Jiqing had bought. The people inside, listen up. You have been surrounded. Put down your weapons and surrender. Otherwise, we will kill you without mercy. A middle-aged man stood not far from the manor's entrance and looked at the manor with murderous intent. The people inside, listen up. The middle-aged man said this 3 times in a row. However, no one in the manor responded. Morong Yu and the other 2 had already left Xing State City. It would be strange if someone responded. Kill them. The middle-aged man waved his hand with murderous intent. Immediately, the surrounding people rushed into the manor. However, even after searching the entire manor, they could not find anyone. Master, those 3 must have heard the news and fled. An old man walked to the middle-aged man's side and said in a deep voice. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Raze this place to the ground and search the entire city. Kill them without mercy if you find them. Rumble, everyone attacked at the same time. Violent energy instantly poured down. In the blink of an eye, the manor that Zhao Jiqing had bought had been razed to the ground. However, Morong Yu and the other 2 did not know about this. At this moment, Morong Yu had returned to the shore of the Dead Sea. One by one, the experts who could fly flew into the Dead Sea. At the same time, many boats appeared in the Dead Sea. Some people who could not fly even carried the boats and swam into the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea. Those who are not experts dare to enter the Dead Sea. They really don't know what's good for them. Seeing this, Morong Yu could not help but shake his head. The blood crystal could isolate the death energy. However, during this process, the blood crystal would be consumed. Once the power of the blood crystal was exhausted, these people would not be able to isolate the death energy. Once they were attacked by the death energy, these people would definitely die. With a thought, a layer of faint green light appeared on the surface of Morong Yu's body. It was the power of life. Then, Morong Yu's phantom light wings spread out and flew straight into the Dead Sea. However, the Dead Sea was too terrifying. Morong Yu's speed was not very fast. It was about the same as an ordinary Daluo Golden Immortal. Haha, senior brother, did you see that? That demon who is only at the mystic immortal realm wants to enter the Dead Sea. What a joke! A few people who were not far away from Morong Yu, one of the young men pointed at Morong Yu and laughed out loud. There was a strong sense of disdain in his laughter. Hearing this, Morong Yu only glanced at these people in disdain. He could not be bothered to pay attention to them. Seeing the disdain in Murong Yu's eyes, the young man who spoke earlier could not help but fly into a rage. Kid, you're courting death. He charged forward quickly and slapped his palm hard at Murong Yu. A cold glint flashed through Murong Yu's eyes. He loathed people who would kill without a word. You're courting death. Murong Yu let out a low roar and similarly sent out a palm strike. The young man laughed ferociously. He was a Daluo golden immortal. Although Murong Yu could fly, he was only a mere mystic immortal. He had already regarded Murong Yu as a demon. Kid, die. The young man laughed ferociously. His large hand slapped down rapidly with the intention of slapping Murong Yu into pieces. Bang! Murong Yu's large hand slapped out and collided with the young man's large hand. There was a huge, muffled explosion. The young man was instantly sent flying as if he had been hit hard. With a splash, the young man was thrown into the Dead Sea below. You overestimate yourself. Open your dog eyes and look. You can't offend just anyone. I'll teach you a lesson now. If there's a next time, I'll kill you without mercy. Murong Yu glanced at those people and sneered. Then, he swaggered off. Chapter 505. Splash! The surface of the Dead Sea exploded, and a red figure soared into the sky. Senior brother, why didn't you stop him? The young man said angrily. This person was the golden immortal who was slapped into the water by Murong Yu. However, he was in a very sorry state. His body was wet from the scarlet seawater that was as red as blood. Junior brother, you saw it too. Although that guy is only at the mystic immortal realm, his strength far surpasses yours. If he wanted to kill you, he would have done it just now. A middle-aged man said in a deep voice. He was also a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. Moreover, I felt a very dangerous killing intent just now. If we attacked, we might be able to kill him, but some of us might die. Another young man said in a deep voice. Everyone fell silent. Even the young man with a furious expression remained silent. They had seen Murong Yu's strength with their own eyes. Although they were all golden immortals, they had a feeling that they were not Murong Yu's match. In fact, they were even afraid of Murong Yu. Otherwise, they would not have let Murong Yu leave so easily. According to their character, if they could do it, they would have killed Murong Yu long ago. However, we can't just let it go. It has always been us bullying others. No one has ever bullied us. The middle-aged man looked ahead with killing intent in his eyes. If we meet him again, we will definitely kill him. Another person said in a deep voice. The young man who was slapped into the Dead Sea by Murong Yu nodded. He was not so angry and began to circulate his energy to evaporate the seawater on his body. Damn it, the seawater of the Dead Sea is like real blood, and it is difficult to evaporate it completely. The young man cursed, and his hatred for Murong Yu grew. The death aura is getting denser, and the pressure is getting stronger. Murong Yu flew quickly, and he was already deep into the Dead Sea. During this process, he encountered all kinds of experts, and all of them were heading towards the depths of the Dead Sea. Murong Yu did some quick calculations. The number of experts he had encountered was no less than several tens of thousands. And this was just what Murong Yu had encountered along the way. Then, what about the people before Murong Yu entered the Dead Sea? What about the people who came in after him? Most importantly, the Qing Prefecture was not the only place to enter the Death Sea. It was possible to enter the Ocean of Death from other directions. In less than half a day, at least a few 100,000 experts had entered the Dead Sea. In addition to the experts who had ventured deep into the Ocean of Death, there were probably more than 100 million experts who had entered the Ocean of Death. Of course, these experts were not very strong. Most of them were Golden Immortals and 9 Heavens Xian Immortals. Immortal kings, immortal monarchs, and even immortal emperors, the stronger they were, the fewer the number of people. However, as they went deeper and deeper, Murong Yu felt that the death aura here was getting denser and denser. Originally, when they were at the periphery of the Dead Sea, the death aura was not dense. It did not have much effect on golden immortals and was only gray in color. However, after entering the Dead Sea, the death aura had turned completely black. Golden immortals would be attacked by the death aura if they did not activate their protective shield. Of course, one could choose not to activate their protective shield as long as one had enough blood crystals. Murong Yu did not have any blood crystals with him. Hence, he did not know how much blood crystals were being consumed. However, Murong Yu's life force had begun to be consumed. Of course, this small consumption did not affect Murong Yu at all. After all, the tree of life in his dantian could convert a large amount of life force at any time. The life force can indeed resist the death aura. Murong Yu smiled. If someone was near Murong Yu and looked carefully, they would realize that the death aura around Murong Yu's body was constantly disappearing. This was because the death aura was close to the life force and was directly purified by the life force. However, purifying the death aura did not benefit Murong Yu at all. Moreover, it would consume the life force. Although the consumption of the life force was unimaginable to Murong Yu, it was still a consumption. Most importantly, if someone discovered that Murong Yu could purify the death aura so easily, it would bring him a lot of trouble. Hence, Murong Yu slightly controlled the life force so that he would not purify the death aura. The visibility is too low. It's less than 10 miles. My divine thought is suppressed even more. It's better to use my divine thought to see with my naked eyes. Murong Yu said helplessly. At this moment, Murong Yu's divine thought was suppressed to the point that it could only extend to a range of less than 1 mile. It was far inferior to what he could see with his naked eyes. Crash! Suddenly, the ground where Murong Yu was standing exploded. A blood-red wave containing a terrifying murderous intent soared into the sky and strangled towards Murong Yu. After the huge wave, a blood-red phantom with a terrifying aura rushed towards Murong Yu. Almost at the same time, Murong Yu reached for the phoenix spear on his back. Then, with a low roar in his heart, he executed Ask the Heavens in fury and thrust his spear at the incoming wave. A long spear seemed to have appeared out of thin air. A powerful force burst out from it, causing the void to tremble. A huge spear light shot out and collided with the blood-red wave. Boom! After an earth-shattering sound, the black spear light and the huge wave shattered at the same time, turning into the most primitive power and dissipating between heaven and earth. The phantom light wings on Murong Yu's back flap. He turned into a black stream of light and rushed towards the black shadow below. Boom! The two black shadows collided fiercely in the void. Then, a terrifying impact swept out in all directions with the place where they collided as the center. Crash! The void was torn apart immediately. In the Dead Sea below them, countless amounts of seawater were directly evaporated by the impact. Then, the two black shadows flew out fiercely. The strength of this sea beast is not bad. It's at least at the late stage of almighty immortal. It seems to have more than 2,000 coiling dragon power. The phantom light wings on Murong Yu's back flashed. After retreating for a distance, he finally stood firm. On the surface of the sea not far in front of Murong Yu, a sea beast that was hundreds of meters long was roaring at Murong Yu. Its eyes flashed with a ruthless light. This was a sea beast that had reached the almighty immortal realm. In the Dead Sea, apart from the death aura, the most dangerous thing was these sea beasts. At this moment, Murong Yu was not too deep into the Dead Sea. Therefore, the sea beasts he encountered were only at the almighty immortal realm. If Murong Yu continued to go deeper, the sea beasts he encountered would become stronger and stronger. 9 heaven Xian immortals, immortal kings, immortal monarchs, immortal emperors. Legend has it that there were terrifying sea beasts that surpassed immortal emperors in the depths of the Dead Sea. Little monster, come here. Murong Yu floated in the void and hooked his finger at the sea beast in front of him. These days, Murong Yu kept encountering sea beasts. When Murong Yu was in a good mood, he would directly fly past them. When he was in a bad mood, he would kill these sea beasts with a single shot. When he encountered sea beasts that were at the almighty immortal realm, he would fight with them. Of course, Murong-yu did not use king weapons or anything like that. Therefore, after a few days, Murong-yu's combat experience had become richer. Although his strength did not increase, his strength had improved. Perhaps it had sensed Murong-yu's disdain. The sea beast let out a roar. Then, it soared into the sky and charged towards Murong-yu. Good timing. Murong-yu roared and rushed forward with the long spear in his hand. Boom! 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 Sea beasts were extremely ferocious. Moreover, they were different from demonic beasts. These sea beasts did not have spiritual intelligence. They had low intelligence and only knew how to kill. Once someone trespassed into their territory, they would kill crazily. Therefore, Murong-yu did not show any mercy. He increased his strength and fought with the sea beast. Waves of terrifying power burst out continuously. The void was constantly torn apart and the sea water was hit by waves of blood. This battle caused the sky to darken and the earth to dim. Good fellow, your body is so strong. Murong-yu stabbed the back of the sea beast with his spear. However, he found that not only did he not pierce it, but the long spear in his hand was also shaken, causing pain in his hand. Roar! With a loud roar, the sea beast's huge and long tail whipped towards Murong-yu. Elephant drawing fist. With a roar, Murong-yu threw out a punch. Boom! Murong-yu's body shook violently and he was sent flying. The sea beast also let out a strange cry and its tail was sent flying back. Little monster, you are quite strong. Today, let's fight for 300 rounds. Murong-yu laughed and carried the long spear on his back. Overturning dragon and sea. Murong-yu roared and used one of the moves of the mountain and sea fist in the black tortoise scripture. The sea beast roared and its huge body slammed towards Murong-yu. At the same time, it raised its huge palm that was bigger than a millstone and slapped down on Murong-yu. Boom! Murong-yu turned his fist around and punched the sea beast's palm. After today's loud bang, Murong-yu and the sea beast were both sent flying by the terrifying power. Again, Murong-yu let out a low roar and charged forward once more, engaging in another battle with the sea beast. Bang! 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 Every punch hit the flesh and the killing intent was endless. While Murong-yu was fighting with the sea beast, a few figures came from afar and hid on an island not far away. A sea beast of the golden immortal realm. We have made a profit this time. A young man's eyes flashed when he saw the sea beast. Be careful. Look at that person first. A mysterious immortal realm? Is there a mistake? Another person could not help but exclaim. Chapter 506. In the Death Sea, the endless deathly aura and danger prevented many people from entering the Death Sea. However, although the Death Sea was a forbidden area, it attracted many people to enter the Death Sea. Of course, apart from the god's relic, many people entered the Death Sea during normal times. They did not enter to die, but there was something in the Death Sea that made them risk their lives for it. Blood crystals. Blood crystals were a special product of the Death Sea. In the entire immortal realm, only the Death Sea existed. Other than being able to resist the deathly aura, the blood crystals could also increase one's strength quickly. Ordinary people would not enter the Death Sea, so not many people valued the blood crystal's ability to resist the deathly aura. What people valued was the blood crystal's ability to increase their strength quickly. Think about it, if you could not increase your strength after cultivating for many years, but a fist-sized blood crystal could increase your strength. How tempting was that? Therefore, the price of the blood crystals was extremely high. Previously, when Gu Jun sold the blood crystals to Murong-yu, he quoted a first-grade immortal meridian. Although it was a little expensive, the price was about right. After all, the immortal meridian was a high-end currency. It was normal for a palm-sized blood crystal to be used to buy immortal pills worth billions or even more. In the immortal realm, Not everyone had immortal meridians. The most common one was immortal spiritual pills. Because of the high price of the blood crystals, countless immortals entered the Death Sea to take the risk. Other than the blood crystals, there were also many sea beasts in the Death Sea. Although they were demons, strictly speaking, they weren't demons. Sea beasts were just wild beasts that had not gained intelligence. However, these sea beasts contained crystal cores in their bodies. Crystal cores were something that sea beasts and even demon beasts would have. They existed in the sea beasts' bodies and were the source of their energy, just like the dantian of human immortals. However, unlike the dantian, the demonic clan's crystal core contained their purest energy. This energy could also be used to increase one's absorption and increase one's strength, just like an immortal meridian. Moreover, after the immortal meridian was absorbed, it had to be refined before it could be converted into energy. The energy in the crystal core could be used directly. There was no need to refine it, and it could be used directly. In other words, the energy could be used to replenish one's energy. If one possessed this kind of crystal core, it would be extremely advantageous in battle. However, in the immortal realm, the monster race was also an extremely large race. Although their crystal cores were extremely tempting, not many people dared to slaughter the monster race and obtain their cores. Once he was discovered, the Yao clan would definitely pursue him to the death. Therefore, demonic beasts like the sea beasts that had yet to develop intelligence were hunted down by humans to obtain their crystal cores. The people spying on Murong-yu were immortals who were hunting sea beasts. A demon beast at the late stage of perfected golden immortal. We've struck it rich this time. Several perfected golden immortals looked at the sea beast fighting Murong-yu with shining eyes. The crystal cores of sea beasts at the great overarching golden celestial stage contained shocking energy. They were much more expensive than the crystal cores of sea beasts at the overarching heavenly supreme celestial stage or lower. That kid is only at the mysterious immortal realm, yet he's actually able to fight this sea beast to a draw. This kid definitely possesses some sort of treasure. Boss, let's get rid of this guy as well, a young man said with a sneer as he looked at Murong-yu in the distance. A middle-aged man who seemed to be the leader nodded. His eyes shone brightly as he said, "Let's wait and see. This kid actually came here alone. After all, he has something to rely on. It's best to wait until both of them are injured before we make our move." Everyone nodded. Then, they hid on the island and watched Murong-yu from afar. At this moment, Murong-yu was unaware that there were people hiding nearby who were waiting to ambush him. Apart from the fact that he was fighting the sea beast, there was also the fact that his divine consciousness was severely suppressed. Currently, his divine consciousness could only extend to a distance of a few dozen meters. Moreover, he could only see less than 10 miles with his naked eye. Roar, roar, roar. Murong-yu fought with the sea beast for half a day. After using all of his skills, he finally managed to suppress the incomparably valiant sea beast. At this moment, the sea beast's skin and flesh were torn open. It looked miserable. Roar. God knows how many of the sea beast's bones had been broken by Murong-yu. Bright red blood flowed out of its body and mixed with the scarlet seawater. Its eyes were filled with fear. With a loud roar, it knocked Murong-yu away and turned to escape. "Bastard, where are you going?" Murong-yu shouted and chased after it again. "Great Vajrachakra seal!" Murong-yu bellowed as he formed an extremely frightening seal. Suddenly, a huge hole was torn open in the void that was filled with the deathly aura. Then, a seal the size of a sacred mountain appeared out of thin air. Then, the huge seal carried with it a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth. It shattered the deathly aura in the void and struck down at lightning speed, intending to kill the sea beast directly. Perhaps it had sensed the terrifying murderous intent of the great Vajrachakra seal. The sea beast's eyes were filled with fear. It dashed towards the surface of the sea and tried to dive into the depths of the sea to avoid Murong-yu's attack. However, How could Murong Yu let it escape? Kill! Let's get rid of this kid first. Just as Murong Yu was controlling the great Vajrachakra seal to kill the sea beast that had reached the almighty immortal realm, a few loud roars came from not far away. At the same time, a few terrifying forces tore through the void and rushed towards Murong Yu at lightning speed. At the same time, Murong Yu was alerted. Bastard! Murong Yu roared, and the illusory light wings on his back flapped violently. He suddenly soared into the sky. Boom! Just as he left his original spot, a few stormy waves of power had already crushed the space where he was originally. If Murong Yu was still in his original spot, his physical body that had reached the level of a grade 7 immortal artifact would not be able to withstand the power and would be crushed into pieces. Kill! When they saw that Murong Yu had actually dodged their attacks, they let out another roar. Waves of power soared into the sky and rushed towards Murong Yu crazily. At the same time, a small 3-story pagoda that was emitting a black light and a cold aura appeared above Murong Yu's head. It carried a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth and quickly suppressed him. Chi! A golden light pierced through the sky and stabbed towards Murong Yu's eyes fiercely. It was a needle-shaped Dharma treasure that was extremely powerful. At the same time, a Dharma treasure that was like a pair of scissors that emitted a strong bloody aura cut many pieces and cut towards Murong Yu's waist. These bastards are too ruthless. Murong Yu, who felt an extremely strong sense of danger, roared in his heart and his killing intent surged. These people who attacked Murong Yu were the ones who had been watching from the side. They had been watching the battle between Murong Yu and the sea beast for a long time. Originally, they wanted to wait until Murong Yu and the sea beast were both injured before they made their move. However, in the end, Murong Yu defeated the sea beast and he was not injured at all. Murong Yu was only a profound immortal, but he actually had such terrifying combat strength. This shocked these people. Furthermore, one of them was Murong Yu, who possessed a powerful treasure. Therefore, they decided to give up on killing the sea beast and kill Murong Yu first. Therefore, they used their strongest attacks right away. Rumble, terrifying auras constantly erupted from their bodies, Dharma treasures, and divine weapons. The terrifying auras constantly annihilated the nearby void. Even the death aura was forced far away, and their field of vision was instantly opened up. Murong Yu did not have time to make a move because these forces had already rushed over. What he needed to do now was to leave these people's range of attack. He quickly flapped his illusory wings and soared into the sky. However, the black 3-story pagoda instantly enlarged into the size of a mountain and covered the sky above Murong Yu's head. It quickly pressed down, wanting to crush Murong Yu into meat paste. The needle-like Dharma treasure turned into a ray of golden light and quickly strangled Murong Yu. In addition, there was also the terrifying golden scissors and the power of these people. In an instant, all of Murong Yu's escape routes were sealed. The void had been sealed and torn apart. Even if Murong Yu wanted to enter the Hichu Luoshu, it was impossible. If he tried to force his way into the Hichu Luoshu world, he would probably enter the spatial turbulence. At that time, he would be torn to pieces by the turbulence. Hichu Luoshu. Murong Yu roared in his heart and immediately summoned the Hichu Luoshu to protect his body. Heavenly Lightning Blast. Murong Yu let out a loud roar as he summoned a terrifying tribulation lightning and sent it crashing down. Rumble tribulation clouds covered the sky in an instant. Then, billions of tribulation lightning bolts that were as thick as an arm struck down. At the same time that he summoned the tribulation lightning, Murong Yu's big hand grabbed the void. Suddenly, a king armament-level battle saber was in his hand. Then, the power in Murong Yu's body gushed out crazily and poured into the battle saber in his hand. Break for me! Murong Yu roared angrily. Holding the saber with both hands, he slashed at the black 3-story pagoda that was falling from the sky. Rumble! The saber that condensed Murong Yu's ultimate power was the strongest attack that Murong Yu had ever made. In an instant, the battle saber in Murong Yu's hand had already fiercely slashed at the mountain-like three-story pagoda. After an earth-shattering explosion, there was a crack sound. Then, everyone saw that the mountain-like pagoda was actually split into two by Murong Yu's saber. Swoosh! The illusory light wings flapped fiercely. Murong Yu immediately turned into a ray of light and soared into the sky through the crack in the pagoda. Chapter 507. Puff. The black pagoda-shaped magic treasure was split in half by Murong Yu's saber and instantly shattered. With the magic treasure destroyed, the owner of the magic treasure was instantly severely injured and spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, seeing that Murong Yu had actually shattered the pagoda-shaped magic treasure, the others were all shocked. The attacks in their hands could not help but pause for a moment. This was the opportunity. Murong Yu seized this opportunity and soared into the sky, instantly breaking through the encirclement of everyone's attacks. Royal weapon. It's definitely a divine weapon at the royal weapon level. After reacting, a person roared in his heart. One had to know that although the pagoda-shaped magic treasure was not a royal weapon, it had reached the level of a 9th-grade immortal weapon. To be able to shatter a 9th-grade immortal weapon with a single slash, the saber in Murong Yu's hand was at least at the level of a royal weapon. Everyone's eyes immediately lit up as they stared at Murong Yu, their eyes filled with greed. At this moment, Murong Yu had already escaped their encirclement, but he did not leave just like that. You're all courting death. Murong Yu was extremely furious in his heart, and the killing intent in his heart surged out like raging waves. The killing intent filled the entire area, and it was extremely terrifying. Kill! The other party did not care how terrifying Murong Yu's killing intent was. They often did this kind of thing, so it was impossible for them to stop attacking just because of Murong Yu's monstrous anger. In an instant, countless terrifying powers, magic treasures, and divine weapons once again charged towards Murong Yu. Kill! Murong Yu floated in the air, holding the saber with both hands. The power in his body was like a torrent as it crazily poured into the royal weapon. Immediately, the royal weapon exploded with a loud bang, and the aura of an immortal king realm expert burst out, sweeping in all directions, suppressing everything and intimidating all the worlds. Immediately, the hearts of the few people who attacked Murong Yu tightened. They felt an incomparably terrifying power covering the sky and earth, and began to crazily squeeze them, wanting to crush them. They were considered very powerful, and were all golden immortals of the great Luo golden immortal realm. However, there was a gap of 2 major realms between a golden immortal and an immortal king. Moreover, immortal kings were much, much stronger than them. At the first moment they were almost completely suppressed. Die! Murong Yu's big hands chopped down fiercely. Chi! An incomparably terrifying black saber light instantly erupted from the saber and then rapidly expanded. In an instant, it expanded into a terrifying saber light that was 100 miles in size and tore at the few golden immortals below. The void was directly shattered by the saber light, and a shocking spatial rift was torn open. The aura of death rose in the hearts of several golden immortals at the same time. In the midst of their shock, they immediately reacted. Block his attack, quick! The leader of the immortals roared and controlled his scissors magic treasure to cut at the blade light. At the same time, the needle-like Dharma treasure, as well as everyone's attacks, blasted towards the saber light that was tearing down. Rumble, the scissors had also reached the level of a 9th-grade immortal artifact. However, it could not withstand a single blow from Murong Yu's saber light. At the moment of impact, the blood-stained scissors, which had killed countless people, was directly shattered into billions of pieces. Puff! The moment the leading immortal's magic treasure was damaged, he spat out a mouthful of blood. The shattering of the scissors only caused the 100-mile-long saber light to pause for a moment. Soon, the saber light slashed down again. However, the needle-like magic treasure had already stabbed up quickly. Rumble! Although the needle-like magic treasure was also powerful, it was unable to shake the black saber light. Like the scissors, it instantly shattered. However, it also successfully blocked the saberlight's attack, causing the speed of the saberlight to change a little. Rumble, at this moment, everyone's attacks finally arrived and crazily bombarded the huge saberlight. Waves of power were constantly sent out by everyone as if they were free. These were all their maximum strength, the strongest attacks they had ever made. In just an instant, the black saber light had already withstood billions of terrifying attacks. Rumble. Although the saber light was powerful, it was ultimately just a saber light condensed from power. After withstanding hundreds of millions of attacks from the crowd, it finally shattered. Kill him. He has already used the royal armament twice. He can't possibly have the strength to use it a third time. After shattering the saber light, the leading immortal roared loudly. At the same time, he locked onto Murong Yu and frantically attacked with waves of power, strangling him. The other immortals all revealed blazing lights as they unleashed their strongest attacks, bombarding Murong Yu. Murong Yu sneered in his heart. If it was an ordinary mystic immortal, not to mention using the royal armament consecutively, even if it was only once, it might not be enough. However, Murong Yu was not an ordinary person. His strength could support multiple uses of the royal armament. At least no less than 5 or 6 times. Swoosh. Murong Yu directly moved out of the phantom light wing cave. He dodged the other party's attack. The moment he left, the void he was originally in had already been crushed into powder by countless forces. The void was directly annihilated. If so many forces bombarded Murong Yu's body, even if Murong Yu used the Hichu Luoshu, he would not be able to withstand it. However, Murong Yu was no longer in their attack range. With his speed, it would be a little difficult for these people's attacks to hit him. Cloud-splitting sky. A terrifying saber light was slashed out, soaring into the sky as if it was splitting the blue sky. It contained extremely terrifying power, and was incomparably powerful, as if it could even cut the sky into two. Sweeping wind and torrential rain. It was like a gale, but also like a torrential rain. A beam of saber light tore through the air. Then, it shattered midway, turning into millions of tiny saber lights that swept out in a frenzy. After retreating for a distance, Murong Yu roared angrily and attacked the crowd with 2 moves of the supreme saber technique. Instantly, these terrifying saber lights tore through the void and crazily attacked the few golden immortals. How is this possible? Sensing the aura of an immortal king contained in the 2 saber lights, the few golden immortals could not help but change their expressions. With these 2 sabers, Murong Yu had already used the royal armament 4 times. Was his strength so terrifying? Of course, whether Murong Yu had the strength to use the royal armament was not what these golden immortals were thinking about. The only thing they could do now was to use their strongest attacks to tear apart the terrifying saber lights that were coming at them. Otherwise, they would die. They did not want to die, so they went all out. One magic treasure after another was taken out by them, and waves of power were constantly blasted out by them, trying to block Murong Yu's attacks. Rumble, under the terrifying attack of the saber lights, these golden immortals continuously threw out dozens of magic treasures of different grades. Although these magic treasures were only ordinary immortal weapons and had not reached the level of royal armament, they successfully blocked Murong Yu's attack. However, even though they broke Murong Yu's attack, they were not in a good state. Many of the magic treasures had recognized them as their masters. Their magic treasures were destroyed, and their minds were constantly injured, and they kept vomiting blood. Roar. Just as Murong Yu used the supreme saber technique, a furious roar came from below Murong Yu. Then, a huge black shadow quickly crashed towards Murong Yu. Beast, you're courting death. Murong Yu roared angrily and slashed down with the saber in his hand. With a loud bang, the saber fiercely struck the black shadow. A terrifying force came, and Murong Yu's body shook violently, and he was instantly sent flying. The black shadow also let out a shrill scream as it fell into the Dead Sea. This black shadow was the sea beast that had reached the late stage of golden immortal that Murong Yu had beaten up earlier. This fellow did not run away. Instead, it attacked Murong Yu when Murong Yu and the other golden immortals were fighting. Very good, try out my ultimate move. Murong Yu had already used the Hichu Luoshu, so although he was sent flying, he did not suffer any injuries. However, the strength in his body had been consumed by more than half because of using the royal armament several times. The Tree of Life would not be able to replenish it for a while. Immediately, Murong Yu took out an immortal meridian and swallowed it. Immediately, the surging power of the immortal meridian surged into Murong Yu's body, quickly replenishing the strength that Murong Yu had consumed. At this moment, the few golden immortals just happened to break Murong Yu's attack. The power of the immortal meridian was extremely terrifying. After swallowing it, Murong Yu's strength had been restored to its peak state in the blink of an eye. Moreover, there was still more power of the immortal meridian, and it began to run amok in his body. Wherever it passed, his meridians were shattered. At this moment, Murong Yu did not care about his meridians that were torn apart by the power of the immortal meridian. A violent and terrifying aura that was filled with killing intent erupted from his body, soaring into the sky and shattering the sky. 10. Square. Kill. Suddenly, Murong Yu roared and slashed out with the saber in his hand. Boom! When Murong Yu slashed out with the saber in his hand, the power in his body seemed to have found a vent, and it flowed along Murong Yu's arm into the saber in his hand. At the same time, streaks of terrifying saber light shot out from the saber one after another. Chi-chi, the void was constantly torn apart and shattered by the saber lights. After these saber lights were forced out by Murong Yu, they began to tear in all directions with Murong Yu's body as the center. In an instant, hundreds of millions of saber lights appeared in the void. The saber lights that filled the sky contained a terrifying aura that could destroy the world. They swept in all directions, shattering the void around Murong Yu and quickly tearing it apart into the distance. It was extremely terrifying. Chapter 508. Chi-Chi, the black saber light, which was as small as a palm, swept in all directions like a storm. Wherever it passed, the void was shattered. In the blink of an eye, with Murong Yu as the center, the area within a radius of thousands of miles had been torn apart by these terrifying saber lights. Moreover, these saber lights were moving further away at an extremely fast speed. When the few golden immortals saw this scene, they were so scared that their faces turned pale, and their hearts were filled with fear. With a swoosh, the leading golden immortal turned around and flew into the distance. He knew that with his current strength, it was absolutely impossible for him to block Murong Yu's attack. If he continued to stay here and did not escape, he would only die. The leading golden immortal reacted quickly, and the others were not slow either. However, although their reaction was fast, Murong Yu's attack was even faster. Puff, puff, puff. Just as they turned around and fled, the saber lights that filled the sky had already enveloped them. In just an instant, one of the golden immortals with the fastest reaction had already been minced into a cloud of blood mist by the endless saber lights and exploded in the void. Until his death, this person did not even have the time to scream. Seeing this, the remaining few people were even more shocked and desperately fled into the distance. However, their attempts to escape were futile. Endless saber lights came at them. Immediately, one by one, the golden immortals let out a series of shrill screams. They were all minced into clouds of blood mist and died an unnatural death. Ultimate kill. He had killed several Zenith Heaven golden immortals with one move. Of course, other than these golden immortals, the sea beast was also minced into powder. Not even its crystal core was left behind. Even the nearby scarlet dead sea water was evaporated. A long time after the saber lights disappeared, the distant sea water slowly replenished. Whoosh! Murong Yu relied on the remaining strength in his body to barely float in the void, but an abnormal scarlet color flashed across his face. Is this the power of all kill? Murong Yu's eyes flashed with shock. This was the first time Murong Yu had used all kill against an enemy. Previously, he had only practiced this move. Although he knew that this move was powerful, he didn't know that it was so terrifying. This was an AoE skill. If it was on the battlefield, the power of this move would be even more apparent. However, it was a pity that this move's requirement for strength was too abnormal. Just now, Murong Yu's entire body's strength was almost completely depleted. One should know that he had devoured an entire Grade 1 Celestial Vein before using this move. The power of a first-grade Immortal Vein, Murong Yu's original strength, and the Tree of Life's rapid replenishment, this was a terrifying amount of power, but it was instantly drained dry by annihilation. Even an immortal king wouldn't be able to unleash such a move. An immortal monarch might be able to do it. Immortal emperor-level experts should have enough strength to sustain the consumption of the omnidirectional kill, Murong Yu thought to himself. However, even an immortal emperor wouldn't be able to unleash annihilation continuously. Murong Yu's eyes were filled with shock. Although the Death Sea is huge, the commotion just now was too big. I believe it has attracted the attention of some expert. I have to leave this place quickly. Thinking of this, Murong Yu took out an immortal vein and began to quickly recover his strength in coordination with the Tree of Life. However, just as Murong Yu was about to absorb the immortal vein to recover his strength, an extremely dangerous signal suddenly rose in his heart. Swoosh! Immediately, Murong Yu's figure flashed and turned into a ray of light, flying into the distance. Boom! Just as he left the place, a huge palm tore through the void and slammed down. The terrifying power created a huge crack in the void. With one slap, the Death Sea within a radius of 10,000 miles was annihilated. The seawater was instantly evaporated. Murong Yu spat out a mouthful of blood. Although his reaction was extremely fast and he immediately retreated, he was still hit by the aftershock of the huge palm. Even with Hichu Luoshu's protection, Murong Yu was still shaken. His body was instantly injured and he spat out blood. Immortal King. Murong Yu's expression changed drastically. From the aura of the huge palm, Murong Yu sensed the aura of an immortal king. It was definitely the aura of an immortal king and not the aura of a royal weapon. Seeing that Murong Yu had actually escaped his attack, the immortal king hiding in the dark couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Obviously, Murong Yu's reaction and speed were beyond his expectations. Which senior is so shameless as to hide nearby and launch a sneak attack? Do you still know how to write the word shameless? Murong Yu was furious as he gritted his teeth. Junior, being sharp-tongued won't increase your strength. However, your strength is actually able to escape my attack. This king has really underestimated you. An old voice sounded from the left and right, from the front and back of Murong Yu. Murong Yu couldn't find the source of the voice at all, let alone find the immortal king. Shameless! Murong Yu cursed angrily and continued, "You are an immortal king after all. How dare you attack me? And it's shameful. Are you afraid that I'll take revenge?" Revenge? The immortal king in the dark couldn't help but snort coldly. "Junior, do you think you can still escape today? If I'm not wrong, you've already exhausted your strength, right? Moreover, although your speed is fast, can you escape from my grasp?" Disdain. A strong sense of disdain. Indeed, although Murong Yu's strength was strong, in the eyes of an immortal king, he was just an ant. Those below the immortal king realm were all ant. "I'm very curious. Why did you attack me?" Murong Yu said with a cold smile. He had already guessed the reason, but he still wanted to confirm it. "Junior, this king has taken a fancy to your cultivation technique just now. Hand it over immediately and I can give you a quick death. Otherwise, I'll come and take it myself," the immortal king in the dark said indifferently. That shameless old thing. Morong Yu was inwardly furious. This guy must have been spying on him from nearby. After seeing the terrifying power of the all-kill, his eyes turned red. I'm sorry, this cultivation technique can't be described with words. I have a jade slip in my storage ring. If you release the seal on the void, I can take it out for you. However, you need to swear a poison oath that you will let me go after I hand over the cultivation technique. The reason why Morong Yu had been talking to this immortal king for so long was because this immortal king was not only shameless, but also very careful. Not only did his spiritual will lock onto Morong Yu, but he also sealed the nearby void. Basically, Morong Yu had no chance of entering the Hichu Luoshu. He wondered if this guy knew that Morong Yu had the spatial treasure Hichu Luoshu. Junior, you don't have the right to negotiate with me. An old voice sounded. In a secluded area not far from Morong Yu, an old man with a haggard face was filled with excitement. There was no other reason. After seeing Morong Yu use the all-kill, he was shocked by this move. Therefore, he wanted to take down Morong Yu. However, even if he launched a sneak attack, he couldn't take down Morong Yu. Then, he locked onto this world. He wanted to force Morong Yu to hand over this cultivation technique. When he heard that this cultivation technique was actually on a jade slip, he was excited. If he made a move, he was confident that he could take down Morong Yu. He could even directly read Morong Yu's memories. However, this was risky. Perhaps Morong Yu had a way to self-destruct or destroy his memories. When that happened, even if he took down Morong Yu, he wouldn't be able to get the all-kill. However, if Morong Yu had the all-kill in his ring, he could make a move. As long as he took down Morong Yu, he would be able to get the all-kill. Therefore, the old man made his move. A haggard hand reached out from the sky and grabbed down at Morong Yu. If you dare to make a move, I will destroy my memories and jade slip immediately. Morong Yu hovered in the void and said calmly, "Bastard." Anger flashed in the old man's eyes, but his hand stopped in the void and didn't grab down. Hand over the cultivation technique immediately, or I will turn your bones to dust, extract your soul, and torture you for billions of years. The old man suppressed his killing intent and said coldly, "I have to quickly think of a way to escape." Morong Yu looked calm on the surface, but his heart was in turmoil. His speed was not as fast as the old man's, and he couldn't enter the Hichu Luoshu. There was only one way for him to escape: teleport back to the cultivation world. However, every time he teleported back to the cultivation world, he would waste a large amount of origin energy. Origin energy was extremely important to a world. Unless he had no other choice, Morong Yu didn't want to waste even a trace of it. Should I use the jade slips that Shangguan Bo gave me? If he crushed those jade slips, Shangguan Bo would probably rush over as soon as possible. With their immortal emperor-level strength, killing this hidden immortal king was simply a piece of cake. However, those things were all sealed in the Hichu Luoshu. How could he take them out? Is this the only way to teleport back to the cultivation world? Morong Yu was extremely depressed, but more than that, he was filled with endless killing intent. "I don't trust you," Morong Yu said calmly. "Unless Senior makes a vow, such as a vow that you will never break through to the immortal king realm in your lifetime, I will hand it over. Otherwise, I would rather die than submit." Bastard! The old man was furious. He wanted to slap Morong Yu to death. However, he didn't do it. Vow? As immortals, they wouldn't believe in such a vow. However, they knew that such a vow really existed in the world, because the rules of the high and mighty restricted them. If a person made a vow and didn't follow it, the heavens would punish them. If it was light, they wouldn't be able to break through for the rest of their lives. If it was heavy, they would die suddenly. Chapter 509. Give me the cultivation method. Otherwise, I'll read your memories after I kill you. The old voice was extremely cold and uncomfortable to listen to. The voice even contained a terrifying sound wave attack, causing Murong Yu's qi and blood to churn. Murong Yu didn't say anything as he quietly stood in place. Secretly, he was rapidly recovering his strength. However, even if he had recovered to his peak, the gap between him and the old man was still huge. Give me the cultivation method and I can give you a quick death. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead. Don't doubt my words. The old voice contained a terrifying sound wave that swept over, constantly attacking Murong Yu's body. Murong Yu's face was pale and filled with anger. He suddenly sighed, as if he had finally compromised. He helplessly flicked out a jade slip. The jade slip slowly floated forward in the void. Swish! A large hand appeared out of thin air and grabbed the jade slip. That large hand was formed by the power of the Immortal King. The moment he grabbed the large hand, the Immortal King impatiently probed the jade slip with his spiritual sense. After all, the move kill in all directions was too terrifying. Even if it was him, he was still burning with passion. However, just as his divine sense probed the jade slip, he let out a miserable cry. At that moment, the Immortal King clearly saw that there was no cultivation method in the jade slip. There was only a large ball of fire. His strand of divine sense just happened to crash into the sea of fire. He didn't know what that sea of fire was, but it burned the Immortal King's spiritual sense clean in the first moment. An intense pain instantly entered his mind. The Immortal King was even shocked to see that after the flames burned his spiritual sense, they actually followed his spiritual sense and quickly disappeared towards his original body. The Immortal King couldn't help but scream when his spiritual sense was destroyed. When he saw the flames burning rapidly, the Immortal King was shocked and hurriedly cut off his spiritual sense. Now's the time. When Murong Yu threw out the jade slip, he paid full attention to the Immortal King's seal on the void. The moment the Immortal King's spiritual sense was burned, the space sealed by the Immortal King finally loosened a little. With a swish, Murong Yu seized this opportunity and rushed into the Hichu Luoshu. Then, before the Immortal King could react, Murong Yu had already teleported to the other side of the Dead Sea. He avoided the Immortal King's attack from afar. First, his spiritual sense was burned, then he saw Murong Yu disappear into thin air. The Immortal King couldn't help but be furious. Then, an incomparably terrifying aura erupted from his body, shattering the void and annihilate the sea within a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Junior played with me, you deserve to die. Deserve to die. The Immortal King roared continuously, erupting with waves of power that were like raging waves, shattering the void within a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Spatial treasure, even a spatial treasure can't escape. If you bring me to find you, I will definitely extract your soul and burn it for billions of years. Being played by an ant like Murong Yu, the Immortal King was extremely furious. His incomparably surging spiritual sense spread out crazily, constantly searching the nearby void and the nearby sea, trying to find Murong Yu's spatial treasure. Generally speaking, any spatial treasure that could carry a living person. After the owner entered the spatial treasure, the treasure would turn into a particle and appear in the same place. Just like Hichu Luoshu. Usually, Hichu Luoshu was in Murong Yu's body. Once Murong Yu entered Hichu Luoshu would turn into a particle floating in the void. No matter how small these particles became, they would always exist. Ordinary spatial treasures couldn't move. The Immortal King thought that the spatial treasure that Murong Yu entered was the same and couldn't move. However, he didn't know that just as he was searching for Murong Yu had already appeared on the other side of the Dead Sea. No, there's actually no one. Impossible. The Immortal King's enormous spiritual sense searched the nearby void and the bottom of the sea no less than 10 times. He even erupted with the terrifying power of the Immortal King realm to annihilate the nearby void and the Dead Sea. However, he still couldn't find any trace of Murongyu's spatial treasure. The immortal king kept roaring. He searched dozens of times in disbelief, but he still couldn't find Murongyu. This little bastard hid so well. I want to see if you'll stay in there forever. The immortal king roared for a while before calming down. Then, he sat down cross-legged nearby as if he wanted to guard Murongyu. If Murongyu knew about the immortal king's actions, he would probably laugh out loud. At this moment, Murongyu appeared in a sea about 100,000 miles away from the immortal king. When he entered the Dead Sea, Murongyu placed a formation every once in a while to prevent any accident. Therefore, this time, he didn't teleport too far away. He was still in the Dead Sea, which was also within the range of the sea beasts of the Golden Immortal Realm. I've wasted too much time. I have to rush to the center of the Dead Sea as soon as possible. Murongyu frowned slightly and immediately rushed forward. Bang! A cloud of blood mist suddenly exploded in the void. A black shadow rushed out of the blood mist and floated in the void, constantly coughing. This is the third sea beast of the Nine Heavens Xian Immortal Realm. Every time, I need to use a royal weapon to kill it. This black shadow was Murongyu. However, at this moment, he was in a sorry state. It had been a few days since he entered the sea region of the Nine Heavens Xian Immortal Realm sea beasts. He had already killed 3 of the powerful sea beasts. There were just too many sea beasts. Even if Murongyu wanted to avoid them, it was impossible. However, Murongyu could still deal with these sea beasts because he had a royal weapon, a large number of immortal meridians, and the Tree of Life. However, other golden immortals and even ordinary Nine Heavens Xian immortals might not be a match for these sea beasts after entering this place. Along the way, Murongyu saw many people who had already become desserts for the sea beasts. These guys weren't strong, but they wanted to go deep into the Dead Sea. Even if they had blood crystals that could temporarily block the attack of the Death Chi, the blood crystals couldn't block the attacks of these powerful sea beasts. Murongyu threw a fist-sized crystal core into the Hichu Luoshu and said with a smile, "Although it's a bit of a pain in the ass, there are some gains." In addition to the crystal core, Murongyu also obtained many blood crystals. These blood crystals were much purer than the one that Gu Jun had promoted. After all, they were already deep into the Dead Sea. It's said that there are immortal emperor-level sea beasts in the depths of the Dead Sea. There are also many immortal monarchs and immortal kings-level sea beasts. Can we really go deep into the Dead Sea? Murongyu said speechlessly. However, as Murongyu went deeper, Zhao Jiqing's calling became stronger and stronger. Murongyu had no choice but to take the risk and go deep into the Dead Sea. Murongyu had a feeling that if they went deep into the Dead Sea, they would definitely have unexpected gains. However, how could he go deep into the Dead Sea? If I had known, I would have asked Old Man Yi and the rest to bring them in. Murongyu was a little depressed. However, if Murongyu had asked Shangguanbo and the rest to bring them in, he wouldn't have met Zhao Jiqing and the rest. By then, even if there was a great opportunity, it wouldn't have landed on Zhao Jiqing. Mr. Murong. At this moment, a voice came from behind. At the same time, a black shadow shot out from behind at an extremely fast speed. Murongyu turned his head to look behind. When he saw who it was, a smile appeared on Murongyu's face. Now, we should be able to enter the depths of the Dead Sea safely. The person who came was a middle-aged man. Murongyu knew this person. Previously, he even received a royal weapon from this person. He was one of the people that Murongyu cured when he was in the Shangguan family. His name seemed to be Chaoping. This person's strength had reached the Immortal Monarch level. Although he had just entered the Immortal Monarch level, he was still an Immortal Monarch and was very powerful. "Mr. Murong, are you going to enter the Dead Sea?" Chaoping walked up and asked Murongyu with a smile. Chaoping was quite grateful to Murongyu. Not only because Murongyu cured his hidden injuries, but also because of Murongyu's superb medical skills. Although he was only in the profound immortal realm, It was shocking to have such achievements in the profound immortal realm. What if Murong Yu was even stronger? He was a godly doctor. With his identity and talent, he was a godly doctor. Even a blind person could see that as long as Murong Yu didn't die prematurely, his future achievements would definitely be shocking. For such people, there was a type of person who couldn't bear to see such a genius and would want to destroy him. However, there was another type of person who wanted to befriend him. Chao Ping was the latter. Therefore, he came not only because Murong Yu cured him, but also because he wanted to befriend him. Murong Yu nodded. I'm going to the depths of the Dead Sea to watch the show. However, I'm too weak and can't go over. Chao Ping's eyes lit up. Wasn't this a good opportunity? Therefore, Chao Ping said, I'm going to the Dead Sea. If Mr. Murong doesn't mind, why don't we go together? That's what I was thinking. Murong Yu nodded. He was worried about how to enter the depths of the Dead Sea. If he was with Chao Ping, with the help of this immortal monarch, they would definitely enter the depths of the Death Sea safely if there were no accidents. Therefore, Murong Yu and Chao Ping went on their way. It was indeed different with an immortal monarch beside them. As long as Chao Ping released the aura of an immortal monarch. Along the way, those 9 Heavens Xian immortals and immortal King Realm Sea Beasts all avoided them. Even some immortal monarch Realm Sea Beasts didn't dare to approach them. Chapter 510. Murong Yu advanced at an extremely fast speed with Chao Ping, an immortal monarch expert. Although they encountered a few battles along the way with immortal monarch sea beasts. Although Chao Ping had just reached the immortal monarch realm, his strength was extremely strong. Even if he encountered a few immortal monarch experts, he still managed to reach the depths of the Death Sea without any danger. This was an extremely huge island with a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. On the island, the dense death chi had already become as black as ink. At this point, even Chao Ping found it extremely difficult to resist the death chi. This was the center of the Death Sea, where the god's relic appeared. However, what made Murong Yu feel strange was that there was no one on the Death Sea. Of course, Murong Yu's divine will and vision were greatly suppressed. He could only see a few miles away. Within the range of his vision, he could not see any immortal expert. One had to know that there were at least a few 100 million immortals here. However, an island with a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles was still too big for a few 100 million immortals. Entering the island and casually hiding, under such circumstances, it was extremely difficult to find them. Swoosh! At this moment, a figure quickly swept past Murong Yu and Chao Ping and rushed directly to the island. However, the moment this person stepped onto the island, his figure instantly disappeared. Seeing this, Murong Yu and Chao Ping frowned slightly. Chao Ping, what did you find? Murong Yu looked at Chao Ping and asked with a frown. Chao Ping was an immortal monarch expert, and his strength was much higher than Murong Yu's. If it was an ordinary mystic immortal, they would have to address Chao Ping as senior. However, Chao Ping had been cured by Murong Yu. As one of Murong Yu's former patients, Murong Yu could directly call Chao Ping by his name. Chao Ping naturally didn't have any objections to this. Chao Ping shook his head. That person is an immortal king. If he wasn't killed instantly, then he must have been teleported to another place. If he was killed, it wouldn't have been done so cleanly. Therefore, I speculate that this person should have been teleported to another space. If I'm not wrong, the people who entered this island before have already been teleported away. They are not on this island at all. Murong Yu nodded. His thoughts were similar to Chao Ping's. I believe that the relic is not in the Dead Sea, but in another space. Let's go and take a look. Otherwise, if we are late, there will be nothing left. Murong Yu said with a smile. Chao Ping nodded. Since they had already appeared here, they would definitely not back down. Even if there were unknown dangers in that space. However, as immortals, as cultivators, they were already going against the will of the heavens. Cultivation was a kind of risk to begin with. Later on, it might be a random teleportation and we might be separated. Mr. Murong, you have to be careful. Chao Ping turned to look at Murong Yu and said. Murong Yu nodded. Then, they both flew down. Whoosh. Murong Yu felt the scenery in front of him change. Then, he found that he had already left the island and appeared in an unfamiliar environment. This is? Murong Yu had already taken out the Hichu Luoshu and covered the surface. However, when he teleported over, he did not find anyone around him. After standing in place for a while, Murong Yu began to size up the surrounding environment. Black qi lingered, and the atmosphere was deathly. Like the island, this place was filled with black deathly qi. However, because of the Hichu Luoshu, the deathly qi could not pass through the Hichu Luoshu and attack Murong Yu. The Hichu Luoshu could effectively block the deathly qi. In other words, even without the power of life, Murong Yu could still live well here. Murong Yu tried to extend his divine sense, and immediately found that his divine sense was not so restricted. Murong Yu's divine sense could extend up to 100 miles away, but it could not go any further. During this process, Murong Yu found that this seemed to be a huge palace. He was now inside a palace. Outside this palace, there were countless buildings. Palaces, houses, gardens, training grounds, squares, and so on. Murong Yu carefully and quickly circled around the vicinity, but he was more and more shocked. This place was simply like a sect. Except for Murong Yu, there was no one near Murong Yu. Other than that, the structure of the buildings here was similar to that of an ordinary sect. Could it be that this is really the ruins of an ancient sect? Murong Yu was very surprised. These buildings were very intact, and it did not seem like a big battle had happened. However, if this was a big ancient sect, then where were the disciples of this sect? According to this scale, there were at least hundreds of thousands of disciples in this sect. But now that the ruins of this sect were preserved, then where did the disciples of this sect go? Did they mysteriously disappear? And all of them? After circling around the underground palace, Murong Yu did not find any danger for the time being, of course, except for the pitch-black deathly qi. Jiqing, how does it feel to be summoned? Murong Yu's divine sense probed into the Hichu Luoshu and asked. In the Hichu Luoshu, the summoning in Zhao Jiqing's heart would not disappear, and the closer Murong Yu got to the island, the stronger it became. It's very strong. I feel that the thing that summoned me is here. Murong, let me out. Zhao Jiqing felt and then said. Okay. Murong Yu first explained the situation in the underground palace to Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing, then after infusing them with life force, he released them from the Hichu Luoshu. Pay attention to the life force. Once you find that the life force is used up too much, immediately inform me. After the two women appeared beside him, Murong Yu said with a dignified expression. He did not want the two women to be attacked by the deathly qi. The deathly qi was really terrifying, and with the strength of the two women, once they were attacked, they would definitely die in a short time. The two women nodded solemnly, then observed the surrounding environment. Big gangster, didn't you say that at least hundreds of millions of people entered the depths of the Death Sea? Why is there no one except the three of us? Yu Mengqing frowned and said to Murong Yu after observing for a while. Murong Yu immediately said his guess. This should be the ruins of an ancient sect. However, when we entered the island, we should have been randomly teleported. Chao Ping and I set foot on the island at the same time, but I don't know where Chao Ping has been teleported to. Even if it was a random teleportation, hundreds of millions of experts came in. You can't be the only one who was teleported to this underground palace, right? Could it be that they were all killed in the process of being teleported? Or that they were all killed when they came in here? This thought suddenly appeared in Yu Mengqing's mind, and then she was shocked by her own thought. It shouldn't be like that, right? Zhao Jiqing's eyes revealed a look of horror. If it was as Yu Mengqing speculated, then there would be a lot of deaths and injuries this time. It should be known that in this opening of the gods' relic, besides those high and mighty immortal emperors, there were even existences that surpassed immortal emperors that entered. We can't rule out this possibility. However, it's also possible that they were teleported to other places. That's not what we need to consider. Since we were teleported here, it means that we are fated to be here. It's very likely that there's a great opportunity waiting for us. Jiqing, do you feel anything? Murong Yu suddenly asked. However, Zhao Jiqing did not answer. Murong Yu could not help but feel strange. He then looked at Zhao Jiqing. Murong Yu jumped in fright when he saw what was inside. At this moment, Zhao Jiqing's face was full of confusion. Her eyes seemed to be out of focus as she stared in front of her. There was no color in them. She turned a deaf ear to his words. Sister Jiqing. What's wrong? Don't scare me. Yu Mengqing also looked over and was immediately shocked. Murong Yu's heart suddenly sank. A bad feeling appeared in his heart. Immediately, he shouted in a low voice, Jiqing, wake up! Zhao Jiqing's delicate body shook violently. Her eyes regained their color, and the confusion on her face disappeared instantly. What's wrong? Zhao Jiqing looked at Murong Yu and Yu Mengqing, who both looked worried. Sister Jiqing, you're finally awake. Do you know that you almost scared me to death just now? Yu Mengqing said in surprise when she saw that Zhao Jiqing had woken up. Mengqing, what happened to me just now? Zhao Jiqing asked, puzzled. So, Yu Mengqing told her what had happened just now. Jiqing, what happened just now? What did you feel? Murong Yu asked in a low voice. Just now, the calling was very strong. It was as if someone was talking to me from the other side, asking me to go over. Zhao Jiqing pointed in the direction she had been looking and said slowly. Someone seemed to be talking to you, asking you to go over? Even so, why were you so confused and absent-minded in an instant? Murong Yu said with a gloomy face. In his heart, a bad feeling quickly arose. Perhaps this strong calling was not an opportunity, but a disaster. I felt that something was wrong. Zhao Jiqing pondered for a moment, then said. Murong Yu also nodded. What's wrong? That strong calling must be an opportunity for you, Sister Jiqing. Yu Mengqing said with some confusion. Maybe. Murong Yu forced a smile. If this was not an opportunity but a disaster, then the three of them would be in for a tragedy. Chapter 511. Hundreds of millions of experts had entered the depths of the Dead Sea, but only Murong Yu and the other two had been teleported to this underground palace, at least for now. No one knew where the others had been teleported to, and whether or not they were in danger had nothing to do with Murong Yu and the other two. When Murong Yu voiced his concerns, he didn't help Zhao Jiqing make a decision. This time, whether it was an opportunity or a disaster, as long as Zhao Jiqing made the decision, he would walk with Zhao Jiqing. Zhao Jiqing didn't answer immediately, and after thinking for a long time, she slowly said, Murong Mengqing. This time, since I've already come here, whether it's an opportunity or a disaster, I will walk on. Whether or not there is danger ahead, I will walk to the end. But you are different, this time it has nothing to do with you. The dangers ahead are unknown. If you come with me, if something happens, I will not be able to face you. Sister Jiqing, what are you saying? We are already here. How can we leave you alone? Besides, even if there is danger, it has nothing to do with you. This is my own decision. Yu Mengqing quickly said. This. Zhao Jiqing wanted to say something, but she was interrupted by Yu Mengqing. I have already decided. What I have decided, I will not change my mind. Yu Mengqing said with a slight smile. Big Rogue, what about you? Yu Mengqing looked at Murong Yu after saying that. Murong Yu smiled. If I leave you two beauties in this underground palace, I will not be at ease. So I have decided to be your escort. Just as Murong Yu decided to leave, Hichu's voice sounded in his mind. Young master, we have been cut off from the outside world. Murong Yu's face changed slightly. Hichu Luoshu's connection with the outside world was cut off, which meant that Hichu Luoshu had no connection with the formations outside the underground palace. With the connection cut off, Morongyu couldn't leave through Hichu Luoshu. Originally, entering the underground palace was full of unknown dangers. But Morongyu wasn't afraid. After all, he still had Hichu Luoshu to rely on. But now, he was told by Hichu that he couldn't leave through Hichu Luoshu. Morongyu's face changed, and Morongyu couldn't help but take this seriously. The connection between Hichu Luoshu and Hichu Luoshu was cut off. This underground palace is really strange. A bad feeling arose in Morongyu's heart. I wonder if it's possible to use China's cultivation world's source to return to the cultivation world? But of the Luoshu not to Luoshu. Because of Luoshu not to Luoshu. Since he couldn't feel it, it meant that the connection between them had been cut off. Can Hichu Luoshu still accept people? Morongyu asked in a deep voice. Yes, young master, Hichu said respectfully. Morongyu breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. If Hichu Luoshu could still accept people, it wouldn't be so scary. After all, if they encountered great danger, they could naturally enter the Hichu Luoshu world. As for Hichu, after Morongyu's strength continued to increase, he had already recognized Morongyu as his master. However, he only addressed him as young lord. In his heart, Zhao Yun was probably still more important. Although he had said so much to Hichu, they had only communicated with each other through telepathy for a moment. At this time, Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing finally reacted. What's wrong? Seeing Morongyu's face turn ugly, Zhao Jiqing couldn't help but ask with concern. Morongyu smiled slightly. Nothing, let's go. So, with Zhao Jiqing leading the way, Morongyu and the other two slowly walked forward. This underground palace was really too big, with a radius of about hundreds of thousands of miles. Even in ancient times, it was the scale of a big sect. However, in such a big underground palace, except for Morongyu and the other two, there was no fourth person, which made them feel a sense of horror. Big gangster, where do you think the people of this sect went? Did they all move away? Perhaps seeing the atmosphere was too oppressive, Yu Mengqing couldn't help but ask. Morongyu gave Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing a stream of life force. In this place where the death aura was particularly strong, the consumption of life force was very serious. In less than a cup of tea's time, Morongyu had to add new life force to the two women, otherwise their life force would be exhausted and then be attacked by the death aura. Maybe they were all killed, Morongyu said in a deep voice. Yu Mengqing was shocked. Looking at the scale of this sect, there are at least hundreds of thousands of disciples. If there are so many people, it's impossible for them all to be killed. Moreover, there are no traces of battle on the way. Indeed, along the way, all the nearby buildings and some others were intact and not damaged. The strength of the ancient Almighty was terrifying, killing people invisibly. Perhaps they didn't even need to make a move to kill them all. It's like a soul attack, Morongyu said with a smile. It shouldn't be like that, right? Yu Mengqing said with a pale face. She was frightened by Morongyu's words. Mengqing, don't listen to Morong's nonsense. If it's really a soul attack, even if the soul is destroyed, there will be a corpse left. Now the road is clean, not even a corpse. Zhao Jiqing rolled her eyes at Morongyu, and then comforted Yu Mengqing. Ah! Zhao Jiqing's voice hadn't even fallen when Yu Mengqing suddenly exclaimed. At the same time, her figure flashed, and with a swoosh, she rushed to Morongyu's side, looking forward with a frightened face. What's wrong? You can't be scared just like this, right? Morongyu smiled. Corpses. So many corpses. Yu Mengqing looked forward with a pale face, and her voice was trembling. Morongyu and Zhao Jiqing quickly looked over, only to see a group of people in the same clothes standing in front of them. At this time, these people were standing on the continent, quietly looking at them. A gloomy feeling hit them in the face. When Murong-yu met their gazes, his body couldn't help but tremble. He finally understood why Yu Mengqing's face was pale. It wasn't fear, but when Murong-yu met the gazes of those people in front of them, that gloomy feeling seemed to go from his eyes to the bottom of his heart, making his heart and even his soul tremble. "What the hell?" Murong-yu shouted angrily, protecting the two pale women behind him, and looked forward with a dignified expression. A group of people, or rather, they couldn't be called people. This was because they didn't have any aura of life on their bodies, only an intense aura of death. The gloomy aura constantly emitted from their bodies and swept over them like a tidal wave, causing Murong-yu and the others to feel suffocated. At least hundreds of people blocked the road in front of them. Murong-yu injected a large amount of life force into the two women, forcing away the gloomy aura. "Hichu, if you feel that something is wrong, immediately put the three of us into the Hichu Luoshu." Murong-yu directly contacted Hichu in his mind. "Yes, young master," Hichu respectfully replied. There was only one road in front of them, and the existence that summoned Zhao Jiqing had to go through this road. In other words, if they wanted to reach their destination, they had to go through the corpses in front of them. This is not easy. Murong-yu's face darkened. Although the people in front of them had been dead for many years, but Murong-yu felt the aura of powerhouses from them. Living dead. These people might be living dead. They were definitely not weak living dead. "What do we do? How can we go through this road? We can't fly," Yu Mengqing said with a slight frown. Previously, Murong-yu had tried it. In the underground palace, his ability to fly was not restricted. However, he could only fly within a certain distance and at a low altitude. The entire underground palace seemed to have been set up with a layer of restriction, and it was a restriction that could not exceed that height. If Murong-yu flew directly over, he would definitely become the target of those living dead when he passed through that intersection. At that time, those living dead would probably grind Murong-yu into pieces with a round of dazzling attack. As for Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing, they had not reached the golden immortal realm, so they could not fly. "You two go into my spatial treasure first." Murong-yu turned his head and said to the two women. Hichu Luoshu was really too heaven-defying. Even Zhao Jiqing and the others did not know the existence of Hichu Luoshu. They only knew that Murong-yu had a spatial treasure that could carry living people. "No, we'll stay here," Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing said in unison. They did not want Murong-yu to take the risk alone. "Don't worry. If I feel danger, I will enter the spatial treasure immediately." "Now that you're here, you're distracting me," said Murong-yu in a deep voice. Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing looked at each other. They both knew that Murong-yu was telling the truth. Not only would they not help here, but they would also be a hindrance. Then Zhao Jiqing nodded and said, "Okay, we'll enter the spatial treasure first. However, you must not force yourself. If you feel danger, you must enter the spatial treasure immediately." Murong-yu nodded slightly and put the two women into the Hichu Luoshu world. Then, Murong-yu took out the Hichu Luoshu again and covered the surface of his body. At the same time, Murong-yu held the king armament level battle saber and slowly walked toward the hundreds of living dead. Chapter 512. Hundreds of powerful zombies blocked the path, each of them emitting a sinister yet powerful aura. Murong-yu couldn't help but tighten his grip on the royal weapon. At this moment, Murong-yu actually felt a trace of nervousness. Murong-yu wouldn't be nervous even if he was facing immortal kings or immortal high immortal realm experts. However, he was nervous when facing these zombies. If he wanted to pass through this path, he had to lure these zombies away or kill all of them. However, it was impossible to kill all of them. Therefore, what Murong-yu needed to do was to think of a way to lure the zombies away. Step by step, Murong-yu gradually approached the zombies. The closer he got, the more nervous Morong Yu became. Even the palms of his hands holding the royal weapon were sweating. The closer he got, the stronger the pressure on Morong Yu became. It seemed that with every step he took, the pressure would explosively increase by several times. The sinister aura swept over like a torrent, suppressing everything. Morong Yu was so nervous that cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Bang! Morong Yu took another step forward. As soon as he took this step, an extremely strong aura of danger appeared in his heart. At this moment, cold sweat broke out on his back and all the hairs on his body stood on end. Swish! Almost at the same time, the hundreds of zombies standing on the path in front of him seemed to have come alive. An aura 10 times, or even 100 times stronger than before suddenly emanated from their bodies. Chaotic shouts rang out from the mouths of the living dead. At the same time, Morong Yu was shocked to see the zombies move. To be more precise, it wasn't them who moved. Rather, it was the several hundred undead simultaneously attacking Morong Yu's side. Whether it was a palm strike, a punch, a finger strike, or a slash with a divine weapon. Although the methods of attack were different, their target was the same, Morong Yu. In an instant, Morong Yu felt that he was locked on by hundreds of experts. His hairs stood on end. Without thinking, illusory wings of light suddenly appeared on Morong Yu's back. The illusory wings flapped violently. With a swish, Morong Yu turned into a streak of black light and disappeared on the spot. At the moment when he disappeared, hundreds of incomparably terrifying forces bombarded the ground where he had been standing at almost the same time. An incomparably terrifying power erupted, and the terrifying impact instantly tore the space into pieces. Even the ground was blasted into a huge crater. Bang! Even though Morong Yu's reaction was extremely fast and he immediately retreated. But he still couldn't completely avoid the attacks of the zombies' forces. After a muffled sound, SS attacks, Hichu Luoshu's SS attack power. Hichu Luoshu was bombarded by a powerful and terrifying force, and a ball of resplendent yellow light burst out. Morong Yu felt as though he had been struck by a divine mountain. His fleshly body, which was at the level of a grade 7 immortal artifact, was instantly wounded and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. What a terrifying power! A trace of fear flashed through Morong Yu's eyes. That was just the aftermath of the attack, and Hichu Luoshu had neutralized most of it. Even so, Morong Yu was still injured. If not for Hichu Luoshu, Morong Yu's body would have been torn apart. If Morong Yu couldn't escape in time, even if there were 10 of him, he wouldn't be able to survive. Whoosh! Whoosh! Swish! Morong Yu kept flapping his illusory light wings, retreating rapidly. Rumble! A terrifying aura that contained the power to destroy heaven and earth constantly tore through the void and strangled towards him. Like a bright firework exploding in the void, it was extremely dazzling and at the same time fatal. After retreating for several li, the undead stopped attacking. Morong Yu finally had time to stop and catch his breath. During this process, Morong Yu noticed that although the undead were attacking him, they didn't seem to have left the main path. In fact, they didn't even move an inch. Could it be? A thought arose in Morong Yu's mind, a conjecture. After staying in place for a while Morong Yu recovered from his injuries and strength, he also paid attention to the movements of the undead. After the undead stopped attacking, Morong Yu's feeling of being locked on disappeared. And the undead didn't seem to be chasing after him. This should be a safe distance. Only after coming into contact with the undead within a certain distance will they attack. Morong Yu guessed. However, whether this was the truth or not, Morong Yu didn't know. After recovering from his injuries, Morong Yu cautiously approached the undead again. Just now, it was here that the undead began to attack as soon as I took a step forward. Then, if I'm not wrong, if I take another step, these undead will attack. Morong Yu looked at the hundreds of undead in front of him with a grave expression. At this time, Morong Yu even felt like he was being watched. as long as he dared to take a step forward, he would be greeted with an incomparably fierce attack from the undead. Clenching his teeth, Murong-Yu ultimately decided to step on it. Rumble! Just as he guessed, just as he took that step, the hundreds of undead in front of him moved again. A terrifying force shattered the sky and poured down on Murong-Yu in a frenzy, wanting to crush Murong-Yu into powder. Swish! 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 Fortunately, Murong-Yu was prepared. The moment the undead attacked, Murong-Yu quickly retreated. This time, he was well prepared and wasn't injured by the undead's power. However, after verifying his guess, Murong-Yu was even more depressed. In order to verify whether the safe distance really existed, Murong-Yu continued to try a few more times. The result was the same every time. After taking that step, he would be attacked by the undead. This is so sad. How should I get past them? Murong-Yu stood in front of the hundreds of undead in the distance, looking at them, feeling a little frustrated. Fly over? If I enter the undead's attack range, I will definitely become their target. Murong-Yu thought in his heart. First, he couldn't fly over and he couldn't charge over. If only I could directly teleport over. Murong-Yu suddenly had this thought in his mind, and then his eyes lit up. There was no formation on the other side that could teleport Hichu Luoshu. But there was no formation on the other side. He could make a teleportation formation on the other side. With a flip of his hand, a jade slip with a teleportation formation engraved on it appeared in Murong-Yu's hand. Then, Murong-Yu stretched out his finger, and the jade slip turned into a ray of light and flew directly towards the undead, wanting to pass through them. If the jade slip passed through, Murong-Yu might not have to face the undead and could go to the other side. However, the idea was bad and the result was tragic. Just as the jade slip flew into the undead's attack range, one of the undead pointed his finger. With a bang, the jade slip was shattered and turned into powder. Murong-Yu was depressed. With a flip of his hand, 10 jade slips appeared in Murong-Yu's hand. Then, at the same time, Murong-Yu flicked the 10 jade slips in different directions. Bang! 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 As expected, when the jade slips entered the undead's attack range, a few of the undead attacked and directly shattered them. They didn't even get a single step closer. Murong-Yu was so depressed that he was about to suffer an internal injury. Watch my fairy scatter flowers! Murong-Yu shouted. With a flip of his hand, thousands of jade slips with formations engraved on them appeared in his hand. Then, with a wave of his hand, the thousands of jade slips shot towards the space behind the undead from different directions like stars in the sky. 1 jade slip wouldn't do, 10 wouldn't do either. But 1,000 should do, right? Murong-Yu would have succeeded as long as one of the jade strips managed to get past the undead and reach the back. He was gambling that the undead wouldn't shatter all of his jade slip. However, the reality was still cruel. Rumble, after the dazzling light, the hundreds of undead attacked at the same time and shattered the thousands of jade slips in an instant. Murong-Yu almost vomited blood. No, there seems to be one more that hasn't been shattered. Murong-Yu stared at the shattered jade slips without blinking. Not long ago, he thought that the thousands of jade slips had all been shattered. Later, he discovered that there was still one more jade slip that hadn't been shattered. However, Murong-Yu felt a chill run down his spine when he saw where the jade strip had landed. The jade slip fell to the ground right in the middle of the hundreds of living dead. If Murong-Yu wanted to teleport, he would appear beside the undead. In that case, he would die without a doubt. If I appeared among the undead, I would definitely be killed by them. Grandma, this jade slip wasn't deliberately left behind by them, right? Murong-Yu thought in his heart. As soon as this idea appeared, Murong-Yu couldn't help but shiver. If that was the case, then these undead were really too cunning. It seems that this method won't work. Murong-Yu no longer tried, because he knew that even if he had more jade slips, it would be useless. Do I have to escape through the earth? If possible, I can give it a try. But Murong, you didn't cultivate any earth escape cultivation method. Hichu, do you have any earth escape cultivation method? Give me a good one that is easy to cultivate. Murong Yu's figure flashed and entered the Hichu Luoshu world. However, he didn't meet with Zhao Jiqing and the others. Yes, there is. But don't you think that it would be easier for you to control the Hichu Luoshu and directly rush through the Hichu Luoshu? Hichu gave Murong Yu an idea. Chapter 513. Murong Yu's eyes suddenly lit up. He had almost forgotten about this problem. One had to know that even if Murong Yu was in the Hichu Luoshu, he could still control the Hichu Luoshu to move forward. Back in the Demon Mountain, Murong Yu had tried to enter the He-Tu and the Book of the Luo's world. Then, he controlled the He-Tu and the Book of the Luo to rush into the Demon Mountain's forbidden area. At that time, the Hichu Luoshu's speed was very fast, and it could enter and exit the forbidden area of the Demon Mountain as if it was nothing. Of course, that speed back then was not worth mentioning in the eyes of the current Murong Yu. However, what Murong Yu was interested in now was not controlling the Hichu Luoshu world's speed in the Hichu Luoshu, but to be able to fly in the Hichu Luoshu. However, after Murong Yu became stronger, he basically did not do such a thing again. Especially after the Hichu Luoshu could be teleported, because he did not need to do so. But now, the living dead were blocking the way. Apart from this method, Murong Yu was really at his wits' end. Although those living dead are strong, they should not be able to discover the Hichu Luoshu in the form of a particle, as long as I am careful. Murong Yu muttered, but did not immediately execute the plan. He was now worried that if this did not work, then how was he going to go over? Those hundreds of living dead were very strong, and there might be experts at the immortal monarch level among them. This level of experts' perception was especially strong. Even if the Hichu Luoshu turned into an extremely small particle, they would still be able to discover it. It would be fine if they discovered the attack in advance. But if these living dead waited for the Hichu Luoshu to float in the middle of them before attacking, then it would be a tragedy. Once the Hichu Luoshu was controlled by the living dead, Murong Yu was confident that the living dead would not be able to break through the Hichu Luoshu. However, even if they could not break through the Hichu Luoshu, Murong Yu could not leave. If that was the case, Murong Yu could only cultivate in the Hichu Luoshu and wait until he was strong enough to come out. After thinking for a while, Murong Yu finally decided to give it a try. At this moment, the Hichu Luoshu had turned into an extremely small particle of dust. Even if an immortal King Realm expert came, he might not be able to discover this speck of dust in the void. Carefully controlling the particle of dust, Murong Yu took the final step to a safe distance. Previously, as long as Murong Yu took this step, he would be attacked by the living dead. I hope these living dead are not so strong, Murong Yu said in his heart, then controlled the Hichu Luoshu to take a step forward. At the same time, his mental power was raised to the peak. Once he discovered that the living dead attacked, he would not hesitate to teleport away. Whoosh! After the Hichu Luoshu took that step, even Murong Yu, who was inside the Hichu Luoshu, felt that the hundreds of living dead seemed to be looking at him at the same time. A sinister aura passed through the He-Tu and the Book of the Luo and directly affected his body, causing his hair to stand on end. At this moment, Murong Yu almost wanted to teleport away with the Hichu Luoshu. However, the fluke in his heart prevented him from leaving immediately. The living dead did not attack him. Murong Yu, who was inside the Hichu Luoshu, could not help but sigh in relief. However, his mental state was still tense. This was because he saw that although the living dead did not attack him, they were still looking at him. One by one, they seemed to be looking at him. In fact, Murong Yu even saw a few of the expressionless faces of the living dead reveal a puzzled expression. What the hell? Murong Yu cursed in his heart. These living dead had been dead for who knew how long. Their muscles, skin, and so on had long stiffened. Moreover, they only had instincts and did not have intelligence. How could they have such human-like expressions? Murong Yu began to think that he was hallucinating. However, he soon discovered that it was not his imagination. Rather, the living dead really did have a puzzled expression on their faces. They couldn't have been revived, right? Murong Yu's heart tightened. These living dead were already so powerful without intelligence. Once they really came back to life, they would be even more terrifying. It should be known that the living dead had copper skin and iron bones. Their defensive power was extremely shocking, much stronger than immortal weapons and the like. Murong Yu controlled the Hichu Luoshu and carefully floated in place without moving. He really did not dare to move. At this moment, the living dead were still looking at him. If Hichu Luoshu moved, he was afraid that he would be attacked fiercely. Aren't these living dead's senses too abnormal? Murong Yu was depressed. He was even confident that even a high immortal wouldn't be able to discover the He-Tu and the Book of the Luo. However, these living dead were actually stronger than high immortals. Of course, this was in reference to their perception. As for whether they had reached the high immortal realm, Murong Yu did not know. Half a day. Those living dead stared at Murong Yu for half a day before finally retracting their gazes. It was probably because they did not discover him. Damn it. If I had enough power, I would definitely kill you all with a slap. Murong Yu cursed in his heart. After another half a day, he once again controlled the Hichu Luoshu to advance. After advancing for about 1 li, Murong Yu's heart suddenly tightened. Shwa, Murong Yu's living dead gazes shot over again. This caused Murong Yu to be shocked. He was afraid that he had been discovered. However, not long after, Murong Yu discovered that this was just a false alarm. A few gazes swept across the space where Hichu Luoshu was. After scanning a few times and not discovering anything, they retracted their gazes. Murong Yu was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. After pausing for half a day, he continued to advance. Hichu Luoshu continued to advance at an extremely slow speed. It was not that Murong Yu did not want to go faster, but that he really could not. This was because he discovered that every 1 li, those living dead would seem to discover something and look in Murong Yu's direction. Every 1 li, Murong Yu would stop for about a day. And the living dead's attack range was several tens of li. At this rate, Murong Yu thought that it would take him several tens of days to reach the living dead. Several tens of li in several tens of days, this speed was comparable to a snail's. However, Murong Yu could only do so. Every 1 li they would discover something. Is there such a pattern? Murong Yu floated in the air and muttered to himself. It was obvious that these living dead had discovered something. This was because every time Murong Yu walked a distance of 1 li, these living dead's gazes would focus on Hichu Luoshu and not on other places. Murong Yu was certain that these living dead had indeed discovered the existence of Hichu Luoshu. However, they could not see Hichu Luoshu. Otherwise, they would have attacked long ago. Time passed. In a flash, 2 months had passed. A total of 60 days had passed. I can't afford this. I've finally arrived in front of the living dead. Murong Yu's face was full of tears. After a series of snail races, it took him 2 months to finally be able to see the undead up close. There was no aura on these living dead, only an extremely dense death aura. This death aura was even denser than the death aura in the air. It was like a thick black fog that wrapped around the living dead. It was very frightening. Murong Yu sized up the living dead in Hichu Luoshu. Swish. He was looking at the living dead that had an expression on his face earlier. It was a middle-aged man. However, Murong Yu had only been looking at him for a few breaths of time when the living dead seemed to have sensed something. With a swish, his eyes looked at Hichu Luoshu. At this moment, Murong Yu could even see the living dead's dry eyes without pupils. A gloomy chill shot out from his eyes, as if tearing through Hichu Luoshu and directly meeting Murong Yu's eyes. Murong Yu was shocked and immediately closed his eyes. Soon after, the eerie gaze of being watched disappeared. Almost immediately after Murong Yu closed his eyes, the middle-aged living dead's gaze swept through the void around Hichu Luoshu, but he did not discover anything. Murong Yu did not see anything. After the living dead did not discover anything, his face revealed a human-like expression of doubt. Was this really a living dead that had been dead for who knows how long? What a terrifying living dead! After a long time, Murong Yu finally opened his eyes, a look of horror flashing through his eyes. While he was horrified, Murong Yu did not dare to continue looking at these living dead. Murong Yu had a feeling that if he hadn't closed his eyes earlier, the undead would have been discovered if he had been just a split second slower. These living dead are too strange. It's better to get away from them as soon as possible. Murong Yu was still somewhat frightened. Originally, he thought that if he came to these living dead, he could directly take them into the Hichu Luoshu world. After all, he also had some living dead in Hichu Luoshu. However, the strength of the undead collected in the extreme celestial realm was too low, and they were of no use to Murong. However, if he could take in these hundreds of powerful living dead, if he encountered any enemies in the future, as long as he released these living dead, even if the opponent was an immortal monarch, Murong Yu was confident that he could catch the opponent off guard. If he was lucky, he could even kill the opponent. However, Murong Yu did not dare to do so now. Who knew if there was an immortal emperor-level existence among these living dead? Whether he could take them into the Hichu Luoshu was still a problem. Even if he could take them into the Hichu Luoshu, Murong Yu's current ability could not suppress them. Chapter 514. Who? Inside the Hichu Luoshu, Murong Yu let out a deep breath. Finally it was over. After a full 5 months, Murong Yu finally passed through the path blocked by the undead. It took Murong Yu almost half a year to cover the distance of more than 100 miles. This speed was comparable to a snail's. Furthermore, the thing that depressed Murong Yu the most wasn't his snail-like speed, but his state of mind. During these 5 months, Murong Yu's mind was always tense, and he did not dare to relax in the slightest. In these few months, Murong Yu could be said to be on high alert. If it were not for his strength, ordinary people would have already collapsed. Of the 2 months he had spent, 1 month was spent on the journey through the undead forest. Hundreds of undead, even if they stood separately, were only a few hundred meters apart. It took Murong Yu a full month to cross a few hundred meters. Because there, almost any movement would be detected by the undead, and Murong Yu had no choice but to slow down. However, that was all in the past, and Murong Yu had safely passed through this part of the journey. However, Murong Yu did not immediately come out of the Hichu Luoshu, but continued to control the Hichu Luoshu to move forward for a distance. After knowing that the undead could no longer be seen, Murong Yu came out of the Hichu Luoshu alone. Those undead did not respond. They must have stopped others from passing through at that intersection. Standing outside for a long time, Murong Yu did not find any movement from the undead, and only then did he confirm that this place was safe. Then, he let out Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing. After Murong Yu covered the 2 girls with a layer of life force, Zhao Jiqing said faintly, "The environment here is much better than the other side, the death qi is not so dense." After being reminded by Zhao Jiqing, Murong Yu realized that the death qi here was indeed not so dense. Even his spirit sense was not suppressed as much, and could extend to a distance of 200 miles. This might be a good thing. Those undead did not chase after us. Could it be that their mission is only to guard that intersection? Could it be that there is something different here? This was an incomparably huge underground palace, and there were all kinds of buildings, palaces, and houses. On the way here, Murong Yu and the other 2 entered some palaces, and searched the houses, but did not find anything, not even a speck of dust. There are actually undead blocking the way in front. Could there be some treasure here? Murong Yu's heart was excited and his eyes blazing. One must know that this was a big sect in ancient times, if there really was a treasure. Let's go treasure hunting. Murong Yu laughed and led the way. Sister Jiqing, did the big gangster break down because of the things that happened in the past few months? Yu Mengqing whispered to Zhao Jiqing, but when Murong Yu heard this, he staggered. The treasure area? After the three walked for half a day, there was suddenly an intersection in front of them. Next to the intersection, there was a huge rock standing there. On the huge rock, 3 words were written in bold calligraphy: Treasure Area. Murong Yu was a little surprised. Could this road really lead to the treasure area? Murong Yu did not immediately walk over, but turned to look at Zhao Jiqing and asked, Jiqing, the existence that summoned you is in that direction? It's not in the treasure area, Zhao Jiqing said without hesitation, because at this time the feeling of being summoned was getting stronger and stronger. Then let's go to the treasure area first. Maybe there really are treasures inside, Murong Yu asked in a negotiating tone. Zhao Jiqing nodded slightly, and Yu Mengqing had no objections. So, the 3 walked into the treasure area. Not long after, a palace appeared in front of the 2 of them. Armory, pill storage, material storage, rare treasure storage. There were a total of more than a dozen palaces in front of them. Each of the palaces had a plaque that stated what was stored inside. Shocking. Seeing these palaces, Murong Yu and the other 2 were absolutely shocked. Maybe there's nothing inside. It's so clean that there's not even a speck of dust, Yu Mengqing suddenly said. Murong Yu glared at Yu Mengqing and said, whether there's anything inside or not, we'll know. But, just in case, don't go in first, I'll go in first. Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing nodded and stayed in place. Murong Yu took out the Hichu Luoshu and the Yinyang cauldron, and kicked open the door of the armory with the king weapon in his hand. Rumble, just as the door was kicked open by Murong Yu, a vast aura as vast as the ocean fiercely burst out. Before Murong Yu could react, it fiercely bombarded his body. Murong Yu seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. His whole body seemed to have been ruthlessly hit by a meteorite from outer space, and his whole body was immediately sent flying. With a piu sound, a mouthful of blood was spat out by him. Murong! Big hoodlum! Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing cried out in alarm, and hurriedly rushed toward Murong Yu. Murong Yu climbed up from the ground in a somewhat sorry state, and said in a deep voice, I'm fine. Indeed, although the aura just now was terrifying, most of it had been offset by the Hichu Luoshu. Although part of the power caused a certain amount of damage to Murong Yu's physical body. But after Murong Yu spat out a mouthful of blood, the extravasated blood in his body dispersed, and at the same time, with the recovery of the life force, he quickly recovered. What's going on? Is there someone inside? At this time, there was still a terrifying aura constantly emitting from the palace, like a tide, sweeping over wave after wave. Murong Yu gloomily looked at the palace door that he kicked open. After a long time, he suddenly laughed. Maybe, we've really hit the jackpot this time. Zhao Jiqing rolled her eyes at Murong Yu. You're injured. And we don't know what's in the palace, and you're still saying that. That's right. Do you want to die? Yu Mengqing also rolled her eyes at Murong Yu. If I'm not wrong, there's no one in the palace. Murong Yu smiled slightly, as if he had guessed something. No one? Could it be some kind of formation or restriction? Zhao Jiqing glanced at the palace, but she really could not tell what was inside. Murong Yu shook his head. There should be a large number of divine weapons and magic treasures inside. This enormous power is the pressure emitted by those weapons. Pressure from weapons? Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing frowned slightly. They had seen royal weapons and even sovereign weapons before. However, when these royal weapons and sovereign weapons were not activated, they still emitted a faint pressure, but the pressure was not strong. Of course, if it was an emperor weapon, the pressure would be more terrifying. But there was no emperor weapon in the palace. If there was an emperor weapon, Murong-yu would not have just been sent flying and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, if there was no emperor weapons pressure in the palace, why would there be such a terrifying pressure? If that's the case, there must be a large number of weapons in this armory, and there's no lack of royal weapons and sovereign weapons. Yu Mengqing suddenly said with a shocked expression. Zhao Jiqing's face was also full of shock. We'll have to go in and take a look to see if that's the case. But you should enter the spatial treasure first. As he spoke, Murong-yu did not wait for the two girls to protest and directly put them into the Hichu Luoshu. If the entire armory is filled with weapons. Murong-yu slowly walked into the palace with a burning gaze. At the same time, he brought out the Hichu Luoshu. It floated in the void above his head, and rays of earthy yellow light fell down to envelop him. At the same time, Murong-yu brought out the Yinyang cauldron, and rays of Yinyang fire covered his entire body. With such a lineup, even an high immortal expert wouldn't be able to kill Murong-yu in one strike. Rumble. As Murong-yu approached the entrance of the palace, waves of terrifying auras rushed out from within. However, these auras could not penetrate the barrier formed by the Yinyang fire. The moment they came into contact with the Yinyang fire, they were burned to ashes. With the Yinyang fire resisting the pressure, Murong-yu quickly walked into the palace. The palace was not big, only about 100 miles in radius. Palaces like this could be found everywhere in the immortal realm. There was nothing special about it. However, what shocked and excited Murong-yu was, the entire palace was filled with weapons. All kinds of weapons and magic treasures were casually thrown around the palace. It was like a sea of weapons and magic treasures. Each of the weapons emitted a faint pressure, and the pressure eventually condensed into a terrifying aura like a vast ocean. It was this aura that sent Murong-yu flying. A sea of weapons and magic treasures. At a glance, there were at least millions of weapons and magic treasures. Murong-yu's eyes were burning with excitement. Hichu, take them. Hurry up and take them all. Murong-yu shouted excitedly. The reason for that was because he discovered that the grades of those weapons and treasures were not low. As he looked around, royal armaments could be seen everywhere. Swish, the Hichu Luoshu enlarged. Then, a suction force was released from the He-2 and the Book of the Luo, acting on the entire palace. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Weapons and magic treasures rushed into the Hichu Luoshu like raindrops under the effect of the suction. In less than half a day, the entire palace and millions of divine weapons and magic treasures were all sucked into the Hichu Luoshu. Not a single one was left. Chapter 5:15. In the Hichu Luoshu world, not long after Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing entered this place, they saw divine weapons and magic treasures falling from the sky like rain. Not long after, a huge mountain appeared in the open space in front of them. It was a huge mountain formed by weapons and magic treasures. Waves of powerful auras continuously spread out, even alarming the others in the Hichu Luoshu world. So many weapons, so many magic treasures. Not long after, Little Purple and the others who were alarmed by the sky full of divine weapons and magic treasures were all stunned by the rain-like divine weapons and magic treasures. What's going on? Where did the Lord get so many magic treasures? The fire-eyed golden ape looked at the divine weapons and magic treasures piled up into a huge mountain in front of him with a shocked expression. Woof! Murong-yu must have found a treasure trove. There are so many divine weapons and magic treasures, but it's a pity that he's not an immortal. Otherwise, I would have eaten my fill. The large black dog first praised, then had a look of pity. In principle, the heavenly dog race could devour any life or item with power to increase their strength. However, the heavenly dog did not devour everything. For example, these divine weapons and magic treasures, especially some royal weapons or monarch weapons. The power they contained was also very large. After devouring them, the large black dog's power could also increase. However, these divine weapons and magic treasures were not easy to digest. If he devoured them, he would need a long time to refine these divine weapons or magic treasures. And after he refined them, the power he devoured was not even 1/10 of these divine weapons or magic treasures. He needed a large amount of time to refine them, but the power he obtained in the end was very little. This kind of thing was not beneficial to the large black dog at all. It could even be said that it was a waste of time. Therefore, he would definitely not devour these divine weapons. Eat, eat, you only know how to eat. The fire-eyed golden ape glared at the large black dog and said unhappily, "Woof. Golden-haired ape, do you want to fight? However, you're not my match now. I don't want to fight with you." The large black dog looked at the fire-eyed golden ape with disdain. That disdainful look made the fire-eyed golden ape have the urge to beat him up. At this time, the big black dog had already reached the golden immortal realm. On the other hand, the fire-eyed golden ape had ascended to the immortal world too late. Even though he had obtained the inheritance of the heavenly demon god, his current strength had only reached the profound immortal realm. There was a gap of 2 whole cultivation levels between him and the large black dog. If they were to fight, the fire-eyed golden ape would definitely be the one being abused. Apes don't fight with dogs. I'm going to cultivate. The fiery-eyed golden ape looked at the large black dog disdainfully, and turned to leave. "Woof. Golden-haired gorilla, what did you say? Am I a dog? I'm Tengu. How could it be an ordinary dog? Stop right there with me. See if I don't give you a good thrashing today." The large black dog barked furiously, and chased after the fire-eyed golden ape. "Xiao Hei, don't be rash. You guys often fight. If Big Brother finds out, he'll be unhappy. If Big Brother blames me, I won't help you." Little Purple, who was riding on the big black dog's back, patted the big black dog's head and said with a smile, "Woof. My great aunt, can you not call me Little Black?" The large black dog was still arrogant just now, his battle intent soaring to the skies. However, when he heard Little Purple's words, he deflated. The large black dog wasn't afraid that Murong-yu would be unhappy. In reality, when had he not fought with the fire-eyed golden ape before? It was just that at that time their strength was on par, and neither could do anything to the other. Now, his strength was much higher than the fire-eyed golden ape's. Fighting with the fire-eyed golden ape was bullying him, and there was no meaning in it. What made him deflated was that Little Purple called his name Little Black. Murong-yu called the large black dog Old Black. This name already made the large black dog's balls hurt. And Little Purple, this little thing, called him an old monster who had lived for who knew how many years, Little Black. Every time Little Purple called him that, he would feel his balls hurt. Little Black? What's wrong? Is this name not good? I'm called Little Purple, you're called Little Purple. That's pretty good. Be good, don't be depressed. Little Purple stroked the large black dog's head, and said words that made the large black dog's balls hurt. The large black dog looked up at the sky, tears streaming down his face. In less than half a day's time, the several million divine weapons and treasures in the entire palace had been swept clean by Murong-yu. The entire palace was empty, and there wasn't even a speck of dust. Gone. Seeing that the entire palace had been emptied, Murong-yu couldn't help but say, "Don't tell me you want to move this palace away too?" Yu Mingqing's voice came. At the same time, she and Zhao Jiqing both appeared in the palace. "I want to, but this palace is just an ordinary palace, and not a treasure," Murong-yu said with a smile. Hearing that, Zhao Jiqing and Little Purple rolled their eyes at him. "You're too greedy," Yu Mingqing said unhappily. "Haha, it's just SOSO. While speaking, Murong-yu turned and left the palace. "SOSO, the third in the world," Yu Mingqing muttered in her heart and quickly followed. "You two stay here and don't come in." Before coming to the elixir warehouse, Morong Yu said to Zhao Jiqing and Little Purple. The two women nodded. Then, Morong Yu took out the Hichu Luoshu and the Yin-Yang cauldron, and kicked the door of the elixir warehouse open. Morong Yu was ready to be hit by the violent force in the palace. However, when the door was kicked open, it didn't erupt like the terrifying aura of the armory. An incomparably strong elixir fragrance spread from the palace, and it was refreshing to smell, and even a feeling of floating. Morong Yu's figure flickered, and he had already entered the elixir warehouse. Unlike the armory, the elixir warehouse was much smaller, and there were no mountain-like piles of elixirs. Only storage rings were thrown messily on the ground of the palace. However, the incomparably strong elixir fragrance proved to Morong Yu that this was the elixir warehouse, and there were a large number of elixirs stored inside. Yes, elixirs can't be stored in the air like this. Those storage rings should have stored a large number of elixirs. Morong Yu extended his divine thought and immediately found that there were at least tens of thousands of storage rings in the palace. Morong Yu stretched out his hand to summon a storage ring, and his divine thought directly entered it. There was no restriction on the storage ring, so Morong Yu's divine thought directly entered the space of the storage ring. Immediately, a smile appeared on Morong Yu's face. Elixirs, countless elixirs, the entire space was densely packed with elixirs. At a cursory glance, there were at least trillions of elixirs, like there were grains of sand in the Ganges. Moreover, Morong Yu also found that there was only one type of elixir in this storage ring. Presumably, the other storage rings only have one type of elixir in each storage ring. That means there are at least 10,000 types of elixirs stored in this elixir warehouse. Morong Yu's heart stirred and he grabbed a few more storage rings and probed them with his divine thought. Just as he had guessed, these storage rings also stored a large number of elixirs of a single type. Ha ha ha! Morong Yu laughed loudly, and with a wave of his hand, he immediately put the 10,000 storage rings into the Hichu Luoshu. Then, Morong Yu carefully checked the palace, and after confirming that he did not miss a single storage ring, he left the elixir warehouse complacently. Big hooligan, look at that lewd smile of yours, you must have gained a lot this time. As soon as he came out, Yu Mengqing asked. The smile on Morong Yu's face suddenly froze, and he glared fiercely at Yu Mengqing. Is my smile very lewd? It's obviously a pure smile. Pure? Your smile is obviously lewd, and you're a big hooligan. Yu Mengqing curled her lips and said disdainfully. Morong Yu glared fiercely at Yu Mengqing. How am I lewd? How am I a hooligan? Could it be that I've played hooligan with you before? Yu Mengqing couldn't help but blush, and she couldn't help but think of the day when Morong Yu dragged her into the Hichu Luoshu. Morong Yu's demonic hand had once grabbed her breasts. Besides, if I wanted to play hooligan, I would only look for Jiqing, right, Jiqing? Morong Yu turned to look at Zhao Jiqing, who was snickering at the side. Zhao Jiqing's face was slightly red, and she rolled her eyes at Morong Yu. You guys can bicker, don't burn me. Humph, Sister Jiqing, let's ignore him. If we stay with him for too long, I'm afraid we won't be pure anymore. Yu Mengqing hugged Zhao Jiqing's hand and walked away, leaving behind a gloomy Morong Yu. All right, you two, I'll go alone. I can't beat you. Morong Yu followed, and soon they arrived at the material warehouse. Material warehouse, rare treasure warehouse, medicine warehouse. After walking down a dozen palaces, Morong Yu was grinning from ear to ear. There was only one word to describe Morong Yu's expression at this moment: grinning from ear to ear. Smile, smile, be careful not to laugh until your teeth fall out. Yu Mengqing glanced at Morong Yu and said, He's too smug. Zhao Jiqing covered her mouth and snickered. Ha ha, not to mention teeth, even if my head falls out, I can still regrow it. Morong Yu laughed. Today's harvest was great, so he didn't care too much about Yu Mengqing. There's only one immortal vein warehouse left. Morong Yu and the other two walked to the front of the last palace. This was the immortal vein warehouse. As the name suggested, there must be a large number of immortal veins stored inside. According to my experience, there must be some immortal veins that will surprise us. Are the two of you ready? Murong Yu asked the two girls with a smile on his face. Open the door. Yu Mengqing rolled her eyes at Murong Yu. Be careful. Murong Yu kicked open the door to the immortal vein storehouse. Immediately, an aura that was countless times more vast than the ocean spread out. This was the purest energy of the immortal vein. Divine vein. Chaos spiritual vein. At this moment, Hichu, who had been in Hichu Luoshu, exclaimed in Murong Yu's mind. Chapter 5:16. Divine vein, chaos spiritual vein. Hichu's shocked voice rang in Murong Yu's mind. Murong Yu and the other two were also shocked by the vast spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The entire hall was filled with pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Like the stars in the sky, it was so vast and endless. Even the death aura lingering in the underground palace was unable to enter the palace due to the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Why was it said that the palace was filled with pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and not immortal spiritual energy? This was because the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that came out of the palace not only contained immortal spiritual energy, but also purer and higher grade spiritual energy of heaven and earth. There was even chaotic energy. Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing were stunned. After a long time, they said with a shocked expression, "What a rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth. If we cultivate here, our cultivation will definitely improve by leaps and bounds." At this moment, they seemed to be in an extremely rich and pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Even if they did not deliberately use their cultivation techniques, the surging spiritual energy of heaven and earth would automatically enter their bodies through every pore on their bodies. Then, it would merge with the power in their bodies and be refined into their power. Just standing here had such an effect. If they cultivated here, their cultivation would definitely improve by leaps and bounds. Leaps and bounds were just a conservative way of saying it. Of course, this did not include the situation where they encountered a bottleneck. Once they encountered a bottleneck, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth would not be able to help them solve that situation. At this moment, Murong Yu woke up from his shock and quickly asked Hichu, "Hichu, is there a divine vein inside?" He clearly heard Hichu's excited voice just now. In this world, there were many kinds of spiritual veins. Among them, the lowest level was the spiritual veins in the cultivation world. Then there were the immortal veins in the immortal world. As the name implied, the divine vein was a spiritual vein that only appeared in the heaven realm. The difference between the divine vein and the immortal vein was like the difference between the immortal vein and the ordinary spiritual vein. In fact, the difference between them was even greater. However, just like how the immortal vein could only be formed in the immortal world, the divine veins could only be found in the heaven realm. Whether it was immortal veins or divine veins, the reason why they were formed was because there was enough heaven and earth spirit chi, as well as countless years of condensation. In the immortal world, there was no such high-grade heaven and earth spiritual chi. Murong Yu sensed the aura of chaos spiritual veins in this palace. He also sensed that it was purer and more advanced than ordinary immortal veins. However, he was only a high-grade immortal meridian. There must be a divine vein in the palace. I can feel the aura of divine veins, and it seems that there are quite a few of them. Hichu had already calmed down, and he spoke to Murong Yu in a deep voice. Divine veins, even the lowest grade of divine veins, contained hundreds of millions of times more energy than a grade 9 immortal vein. It was worth billions of times more than a grade 9 immortal vein. If he had a divine vein, it would be equivalent to billions of 9th grade immortal veins. This was the difference between a divine vein and an immortal vein. Hearing Hichu's words and thinking about the difference in value between the two types of immortal veins, Murong Yu, who had already calmed down, couldn't help but become excited again. He even had a feeling that the value of the divine vein in this palace was even higher than the value of all the things he had obtained before. However, whether this was true or not, he would only know after seeing it. "Big gangster, are we going in?" Yu Mengqing suppressed her excitement and looked at Murong Yu and Zhao Jiqing. "Of course we are going in." Murong Yu nodded and strode in first. Like the other palaces, the entire palace had some array formations and restrictions to prevent the leakage of spirit qi from all kinds of spirit veins. Just like the armory, when Murong Yu entered the spirit vein warehouse, he saw a sea of immortal veins of various grades that had been compressed to the size of a pinky finger. The palace was hundreds of miles wide. The entire palace was filled with spirit veins that had been compressed to the size of a pinky finger. When these spirit veins gathered together, they formed a vast ocean, an ocean of immortal veins. Among these spirit veins, the lowest grade was a grade 1 spirit vein. The highest grade was the Chaos Spirit Vein and Divine Vein that Hichu had mentioned. So many spirit veins. Sister Jiqing, so many immortal veins. Yu Mengqing exclaimed excitedly when she saw the vast ocean of immortal veins in front of her. Zhao Jiqing's heart was also filled with shock as she looked at the palace, speechless for a long time. As for Murong Yu, his eyes had already swept across the countless immortal veins and finally landed on more than 100 spirit veins that were as thick as an arm. Chaos Spirit Vein, Divine Vein. Among them, there were 10 Chaos Spirit Veins that emitted an extremely vast aura of chaos energy. Apart from these 10 Chaos Spirit Veins, the remaining 100 were all Divine Veins. More than 100 Divine Veins. Each divine vein was equivalent to hundreds of millions of grade 9 immortal veins. These 100 immortal veins were equivalent to hundreds of millions of grade 9 immortal veins. In fact, hundreds of millions was just a general number. If the difference between a divine vein and an immortal vein was expressed in a specific number, then a grade 1 divine vein was equivalent to 1 trillion grade 9 immortal veins. 1 trillion was equivalent to 1 trillion. In other words, 1 trillion grade 9 immortal veins were equivalent to 1 grade 1 divine vein. In the spirit vein warehouse, there were more than 100 divine veins. Even if they were only grade 1 divine veins, they were worth at least 100 trillion grade 9 immortal veins. Of course, apart from these 100 divine veins, there were countless other divine veins of various grades. If all of them were to be converted to grade 9 immortal veins, it would be no less than a few 100 trillion. Chaos Spirit Veins, Divine Veins, and ordinary immortal veins meant that there were at least 1,000 trillion grade 9 immortal veins in this palace. 1,000 trillion grade 9 immortal veins was equivalent to 1 trillion grade 9 immortal veins. Only the super forces would be able to possess such a large number of immortal veins. Of course, Murong Yu did not know how much wealth those super forces had. He did not have time to think about that. Now, he only had one thought, and that was to strike it rich. Even if they only obtained treasures and spiritual veins from this trip to the underground palace, Murong Yu, Chaos Shenzhen, and Celestial Palace would definitely rise to the ranks of super forces. Of course, this was only referring to their financial resources. Shenzhen and Celestial Palace still had a long way to go before they could truly become super forces. Hichu put all these immortal veins, divine veins, and chaos spirit veins into the Hichu Luoshu. Hurry up! After recovering from his shock, Murong Yu began to collect the immortal veins and divine veins. After all, the He-Tu and the Luo tomes were the only things that belonged to him. Otherwise, if an accident were to happen and someone were to suddenly come and snatch away the immortal veins, Murong Yu's heart would ache to death. The He-Tu and the Book of the Luo opened up and shrouded the entire palace. A huge suction force was emitted continuously, sucking the immortal veins and divine veins into the He-Tu and the Book of the Luo. In less than half a day, the entire spiritual vein warehouse was empty. Only the pure spiritual qi of heaven and earth had not dissipated into the air. Finally, it's all in. Murong Yu breathed a sigh of relief. Sister Jiqing, look at the big hooligan. He's becoming more and more like a miser. Yu Mengqing held on to Zhao Jiqing's arm and curled her lips at Murong Yu. Zhao Jiqing did not say anything and only smiled slightly. Murong Yu only glared at Yu Mengqing and said, "In that case, you won't get a share of these treasures and spiritual veins." "Why should I? I also found something." Yu Mengqing glared at Murong Yu. "Didn't you say that I'm a miser?" "Since these things are already in my pocket, I naturally won't take them out." Murong Yu laughed. Big hooligan, forget it if you don't want to give it to me." Yu Mengqing turned her head and did not even look at Murong Yu. "Girl? You're actually so generous?" Murong Yu was a little surprised. Although they had a good relationship and Yu Mengqing was now considered a part of Shenzhen, she did not have a reason to be so generous, right? These were things worth thousands of grade 9 spiritual veins. Was she really not tempted? "If you don't want it, then don't. I don't care. When the time comes, I'll just follow Sister Jiqing," Yu Mengqing said with a sweet smile. Murong Yu rolled his eyes. He really thought that Yu Mengqing did not need it. This time, Zhao Jiqing would definitely get a lot of treasures and spiritual veins. As long as Yu Mengqing followed Zhao Jiqing, she would not have to worry about not having these things. Moreover, they all knew that Murong Yu was not really a miser. He was still very generous to his own people. "Alright, you guys bicker every day. Don't you feel tired? Now, do you want to go to the other side or do you want to count these things first?" Zhao Jiqing quickly interrupted the bickering between the two. "There are too many things in the dozens of treasure vault. It's hard to count them all in such a short time. How about this, we'll go to the other side first. Anyway, I've already taken all of these. It won't be too late to count them after we leave the underground palace." Murong Yu pondered for a moment before finally saying. Although they all wanted to know how much they had gained, they knew that now was not the time. Thus, the three of them left the treasure area and walked to the other side. "Big gangster, how much did we gain this time?" Yu Mengqing could not help but ask along the way. Zhao Jiqing also looked at Murong Yu. "If I'm not wrong, it's at least 2,000 trillion. Murong Yu thought for a moment before saying, 2,000 trillion grade 1 spiritual veins? Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing were both stunned. "You're wrong. I'm not talking about grade 1 spiritual veins, but grade 9 spiritual veins. This time, we've gained at least 2,000 trillion grade 9 spiritual veins," Murong Yu said excitedly. Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing instantly felt a little dizzy. Chapter 517. There were at least 2 trillion 9th grade immortal meridians, and more than that. Most importantly, these were 9th grade immortal meridians, not 1st grade immortal meridians. What kind of concept was this? Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing felt a little dizzy. This huge amount of wealth shocked them. "Sister Jiqing, let me help you. I feel like I can't stand properly." Yu Mengqing hugged Zhao Jiqing's arm tightly and said in shock. Zhao Jiqing nodded. She was also shocked. "Look at you guys. Just this and you're already making such a fuss. If there were more, wouldn't you be scared to death?" Murong Yu pretended to be calm and said, "Murong, stop pretending. You're also very surprised and excited right now, aren't you?" Zhao Jiqing looked at Murong Yu's calm and thought it was funny. "Ha ha ha ha." Murong Yu suddenly laughed out loud. He couldn't hold back the excitement in his heart. "You really make me despise you." Yu Mengqing had calmed down and looked at Murong Yu with disdain. At the same time, she said to Zhao Jiqing, "Sister Jiqing, let's stay away from this guy. He's like a madman. If others see him, they'll think that we know each other." As she said that, Yu Mengqing pulled Zhao Jiqing away from Murong Yu. After laughing wildly for a while, Murong Yu finally stopped. After regaining his composure, he glared at Yu Mengqing and strode toward the fork in the road. Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing hurriedly followed. After arriving at the fork in the road, Morong Yu and the other two continued to move forward. Not long after, another fork in the road appeared in front of them. Cultivation area, Jiqing, is it this way? Morong Yu stopped and looked at Zhao Jiqing. Zhao Jiqing nodded and pointed straight ahead. The summoning feeling in her heart was getting stronger and stronger, but it was not in the cultivation area. If that's the case, then let's move on. Morong Yu had no intention of entering the cultivation area. Yu Mengqing couldn't help but feel strange. Aren't we going to take a look at the cultivation area? Maybe there are a lot of treasures there. Morong Yu shook his head and said, as the name suggests, the cultivation area is just a place for cultivation in this underground palace. There shouldn't be any treasures there. All the treasures in the underground palace are in the treasure area. Yes, they are with us now. Even if there are a few treasures in the cultivation area, we still have important matters to attend to. A trace of disdain appeared on Yu Mengqing's face as she looked at Morong Yu. Are you looking down on him? Morong Yu smiled faintly. He did have such thoughts. After all, he had already looted the entire treasure area. What other treasures were there? Moreover, as he had said, the priority now was to settle Zhao Jiqing's matter. After all, it wasn't just the three of them who entered the Dead Sea. Although they didn't know where those people were teleported to, it was hard to guarantee that there wouldn't be more people entering the underground palace. As they spoke, they didn't stop. Soon, they passed by another fork in the road. In front of them was written, Living Area, Treasure Area, Cultivation Area, Living Area. This huge underground palace was divided into different areas. It didn't look like a sect, but more like a school. Sister Jiqing, do you feel it? We've already walked a long distance. Yu Mengqing asked. Zhao Jiqing nodded. I have a feeling that we're almost there. At this time, Zhao Jiqing felt the summoning in her heart getting stronger and stronger. It was as if there was someone in front of her calling her. Even if she tried to suppress it, she couldn't suppress the summoning that seemed to want to jump out. It's just in front. Zhao Jiqing suddenly pointed at a palace in front of them and said, I feel that the thing that's calling me is in that palace. This was an incomparably huge palace. From the outside, the palaces that Morong Yu had passed by looked similar to ordinary palaces. The tallest one was only a few dozen meters tall. Of course, the inside of those palaces was another space. The space inside the space was different from what it looked like from the outside. From afar, this palace was at least 100 miles tall. It was hundreds of miles long. It was extremely majestic. The most shocking thing was that the surface of the palace was covered in a layer of red flames. The flames were burning. The entire palace seemed to be burning. However, Morong Yu and the other two knew that the palace wasn't burning. Although the flames looked like they were burning the palace, in fact, the flames were coming from within the palace. From afar, an extremely powerful but somewhat weak aura came from the ancient times. It was vast and suppressive. What's that? Yu Mengqing suddenly looked at the palace and exclaimed. Morong Yu and Zhao Jiqing looked in the direction that Yu Mengqing was pointing at. They realized that there seemed to be a divine bird burning with divine fire soaring in the flames. The divine phoenix! Morong Yu exclaimed. The divine phoenix was a divine beast from ancient times. It was extremely powerful. It was said that it was one of the most powerful divine beasts in the world, just like the dragon clan. However, there were no longer any phoenixes in the world today. The phoenix clan had long become history. It was almost annihilated in the long river of history. It was only mentioned in some ancient books. That's a phoenix? Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing's faces flashed with shock. Although they had heard of phoenixes, they had never seen one before. Morong Yu nodded. He wasn't sure if it was a phoenix, but Hichu was sure. After all, Hichu was too ancient. He must have seen these phoenixes before. The divine phoenix. What's that next to it? Is that a divine dragon? Yu Mengqing pointed to the side of the divine phoenix and asked. At this moment, the palace that was originally burning with red flames was now covered with a layer of black flames. These flames intertwined with the red flames, as if they were fighting with each other. Amidst the flames, a huge black dragon appeared beside the divine bird. At this moment, the two divine beasts were fighting. However, perhaps the scene above the palace was just an illusion or an image. No matter how fierce the battle between the two divine beasts was, Morong Yu and the other two could feel some kind of energy fluctuation. The strangest thing was that Morong Yu and the other two could feel that the aura from the mountain seemed to be gradually weakening. Jiqing, are you sure that the thing that summoned you is in this palace? Morong Yu turned to look at Zhao Jiqing and asked with a serious expression. Zhao Jiqing nodded. The thing that summoned me seems to be asking me to go in. Morong Yu frowned slightly. This palace actually manifested the divine phoenix and divine dragon. Then I think that this palace might be related to the Phoenix clan or the Dragon clan. It's very likely that the thing that summoned you is the Phoenix clan's powerhouse or the Dragon clan's powerhouse. Could there be the inheritance of the Dragon clan or the Phoenix clan inside? Yu Mengqing asked in horror. Morong Yu nodded slightly. I have the same feeling. However, we still don't know what the truth is. Also, this palace gives me a bad feeling. I feel that something is going to happen. So, we must be very careful this time. Morong Yu looked at the two girls with a serious expression and said. Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing nodded quickly. However, even so, my feeling could be wrong. There might be the inheritance of the Phoenix clan or the Dragon clan inside. As for whether we want to go in or not, it's up to you. I must go in, Zhao Jiqing said with a determined expression. The being that had summoned her had drawn her over from such a far distance. Regardless of whether there was an inheritance or something else, she had to face it head-on. Otherwise, if she came here but didn't go in, she would definitely regret it in the future. I'll go in too. Yu Mengqing also decided. Okay, then let's all go in. I want to see if there really is a Phoenix clan or Dragon clan senior in this palace. However, you must be careful. If you feel a suction force acting on you when you're in danger, I hope you won't resist. Morong Yu said with a serious expression. The two girls nodded quickly, then they each took out their royal weapons. Although they obtained a large number of divine weapons and magic treasures in the treasure area, they didn't have enough time to refine them. And these royal weapons were given to them by Morong Yu long ago. They had already refined them. After covering the two girls with a layer of life force, Morong Yu asked again, Are you ready? The two girls nodded, then Morong Yu took the lead and walked toward the palace. Not long after, Morong Yu and the other two arrived in front of the palace's gate. Strangely enough, the raging flames had originally enveloped the entire palace. However, when Morong Yu's group of three walked in, the flames automatically retracted back into the palace. The powerful aura also gradually weakened. We're going in. Morong Yu came to the palace's gate and said in a deep voice. Then, he viciously kicked the gate. Rumble. After a loud noise, the gate was directly kicked open by Morong Yu. Then, the scene in the palace appeared in front of Morong Yu and the other two. There was nothing. Morong Yu swept his gaze over the palace and discovered that it was completely empty. There wasn't a single thing inside. He couldn't help but glance at Zhao Jiqing. Go in. Zhao Jiqing nodded slightly, then Morong Yu and the other two stepped into the palace. Rumble. Just as they entered the palace's gate automatically closed, giving Morong Yu and the other two a fright. At the same time, a bad feeling appeared in their hearts. At the same time, a pink fog appeared in the palace out of thin air, enveloping Morong Yu and the other two. Not good. Hold your breath, don't let your body come into contact with the pink fog. Morong Yu's expression changed abruptly as he shouted in a low voice. Chapter 5:18. The pink mist instantly drifted in the hall, and no one knew where it came from. In the blink of an eye, It enveloped Morong Yu and the other two. When they saw the pink mist, before Morong Yu could warn them, Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing already felt that something was amiss. They were on their guard. When Morong Yu shouted, the three of them simultaneously opened their shields, wanting to stop the pink energy from entering. However, it was too late. Before Morong Yu's voice had even died down, the pink mist had already penetrated their shields and Royal Armament's defensive shields. Even the Royal Armament's power was unable to stop the pink mist. Seeing this, Morong Yu was shocked. At the same time, he roared, "Oh no!" At the same time, his power began to explode wildly, wanting to force the pink mist away. When he reacted, Morong Yu muttered to Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing, "Don't let the mist touch your body." At the same time, Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing also began to unleash their power, wanting to avoid the pink mist. However, the pink mist was simply too strange. It could even penetrate the Royal Armament's power in an instant, let alone Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing's power. The two women's realms were not high, far inferior to Morong Yu. Thus, when they unleashed their power, they were unable to stop the pink mist at all. In the blink of an eye, the pink mist had already penetrated their power and directly affected their bodies. Then, it entered their bodies through the 36,000 pores on their bodies. In that instant, every inch of Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing's skin began to show a seductive crimson color. A strange feeling immediately appeared in their hearts. After the pink mist entered their bodies, they involuntarily gave up on expelling the power and withdrew their power. They even withdrew their royal armaments. Surging life force continuously erupted from Morong Yu's body, forming a shield around him, enveloping his entire body. The pink mist that could penetrate the royal armament's defenses actually stopped in front of the life force. Seeing this, Morong Yu was immediately delighted. He knew that the strange pink mist would not invade his body. However, at that moment, he discovered that something was wrong. He turned around and saw that Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing had actually given up all resistance. Their bodies were completely enveloped by the pink mist. In fact, Morong Yu could even see the abnormalities on the two women's bodies. At that moment, Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing's faces were flushed red. Their originally watery eyes were now looking seductively at Morong Yu in front of them. In fact, Morong Yu could even see a trace of desire in their eyes. Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing involuntarily moaned. Their voices were extremely seductive. Coupled with their seductive gazes and beautiful appearances, Morong Yu almost lost himself in their charms. So hot! At that moment, Zhao Jiqing's face and skin were getting redder and redder. Waves of inexplicable power were constantly acting on her body and her soul, causing her to involuntarily develop some kind of desire. A strange feeling was constantly rising from her body. "Rip!" Yu Mengqing moaned. She reached out and tore a piece of clothing in front of her chest. "Damn it!" Morong Yu was shocked. He finally knew what the pink fog was. It was an aphrodisiac. Like an aphrodisiac, it could stimulate the lust in the depths of a person's heart and make them lose themselves. At that moment, Yu Mengqing's eyes were seductive. Her eyes were no longer clear. Instead, they were filled with passion and burning desire. "So hot!" Yu Mengqing moaned again. She only felt that her entire body was burning. She had a feeling that she wanted to vent. "Rip!" She tore a large piece of clothing from her body. At the same time, she rushed towards Morong Yu. Morong Yu's figure swayed and he still came to Yu Mengqing's side. He reached out his hand and directly restrained Yu Mengqing's power. At the same time, she passed through the power of life, trying to force the pink energy out. However, although Yu Mengqing's power was restrained, the feeling of desire became even more intense. Her eyes were blurred as she looked at Morong Yu with passion. A pair of small hands quickly grabbed Morong Yu's body, trying to tear Morong Yu's clothes apart. "Damn it!" Morong Yu cursed and increased the speed of the transmission of the power of life. However, he realized that even though the power of life was like a flood, it could not restrain Yu Mengqing. As time passed, Yu Mengqing's body became hotter and hotter. Her actions became more and more intense. Finally, a piece of Murong Yu's clothing was torn apart by Yu Mengqing. At the same time, Yu Mengqing hugged Murong Yu's body with both hands. Her beautiful face quickly kissed Murong Yu. Yu Mengqing, wake up! Murong Yu was shocked and angry. Under such circumstances, he could no longer control himself. However, his rationality told him that he absolutely could not do such a thing. Now, Yu Mengqing was confused by the aphrodisiac. What would happen after this? How would he explain it to her and Zhao Jiqing? Therefore, he had to wake Yu Mengqing up to prevent her from making a huge mistake. Hichu, is there any way? Murong Yu saw that the power of life was useless and could not help but ask Hichu anxiously. If there is a way, it is only possible to relieve their lust by relieving them of their desire. Otherwise, if too much time passes, their bodies will explode and they will die. This kind of thing. I need to see if there is any other way. Hichu frowned slightly. Although he was experienced and knowledgeable, he had never seen this kind of pink fog before. Those pills, quick, let me see if there are any antidotes. Murong Yu shouted anxiously. At this time, Yu Mengqing was already confused. Although her power had been restricted, her body was getting hotter and hotter. Her eyes were blurred and she was completely immersed in the flames of lust. It's so painful, I want. Yu Mengqing kept murmuring as her hands crazily hugged Murong Yu. Murong Yu was shocked and angry. Right at this moment, Murong Yu suddenly felt a warm and fragrant body pressing against his back. At the same time, a pair of soft yet fiery lips kissed his back. He turned his head and saw that Zhao Jiqing was also confused by the flames of lust, just like Yu Mengqing. Damn it! Which bastard is it? If I find out, I will definitely turn you into ashes. Murong Yu was extremely angry and his murderous intent soared to the sky. However, he also knew that now was not the time to be angry. He first had to solve the situation of the two women. Otherwise, Zhao Jiqing and the others might end up exploding and dying. Murong Yu had just let go of Yu Mengqing's hand when Yu Mengqing had already torn all her clothes. Suddenly, the naked Yu Mengqing was completely naked in front of Murong Yu. The soft and firm little white bunnies that were full of elasticity swayed in front of Yu Mengqing's chest, attracting Murong Yu's eyes. The two protrusions that were like purple grapes made Murong Yu salivate. Murong Yu's eyes could not help but sweep down, past the flat lower abdomen, to the black forest, and then the two snow-white but tempting thighs. I want. Yu Mengqing moaned and threw herself into Murong Yu's arms. What the hell is this situation? Murong Yu could not help but roar. Facing such a stunning beauty who threw herself into his arms, Murong Yu would be lying if he did not have any reaction. At this time, Murong Yu's heart was also full of lust. However, his only trace of rationality told him that he could not lose himself in lust. Once he did, he would be doomed eternally. Hichu, is there any way? Murong Yu roared to the sky and said loudly to Hichu. There is no way. Hichu was also somewhat helpless. At the same time, Zhao Jiqing, who was kissing Murong Yu crazily behind, also tore her clothes fiercely. At this time, Murong Yu was hugged by two stunning beauties and kept saying very seductively, I want. If it were other people, they would have already gotten on the horse and had a few thousand rounds with this kind of luck. Murong Yu also had this idea in his heart, but his rationality told him that he could not do so. Kid, those two beauties of yours have been hit by my pink morning. If there is no man, their souls will soon be annihilated in lust. Don't think of any way to relieve their lust. If there is no yin and yang balance, the souls of those two beauties will be annihilated. Just as Murong Yu was trying his best to resist the temptation and think of a way to solve it, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Who is it? Who the hell are you? Murong Yu could not help but roar. He hated the person who spoke to him. Who I am is not important. Kid, if you continue to be reserved, those two beauties of yours will not be able to hold on and their souls will be annihilated. Don't blame me for not reminding you, the pink morning directly affects the soul. Chapter 519. There was no cure. It was an aphrodisiac that directly affected one's soul. Unless a man and a woman had intercourse, and yin and yang were in harmony, the person who was inflicted with the pink morning would definitely die. This drug called the pink morning was too overbearing. Not only did it directly affect one's soul, but there was no cure. Murong Yu was furious, and his killing intent soared. He hated the person who spoke to him to the extreme. Whoosh! With a thought, Murong Yu sent the two women into the Hichu Luoshu world. He did not want anyone to see Zhao Jiqing and Yu Qing's bodies. At the same time, Murong Yu's divine thought directly entered the two women's soul space. The two women's souls were almost the same. They were shaking violently, completely affected by the pink morning. Especially Yu Mengqing, because her strength was lower than Zhao Jiqing's, she was more seriously affected. Seeing this, Murong Yu's heart sank. It seemed that the voice was right. There was no cure for an aphrodisiac that directly affected one's soul. Of course, there was only one way, and that was to have intercourse, and yin and yang were in harmony. Is this really the only way? Murong Yu was very unhappy. He did not want to have sex with the two women under such circumstances. Young man, if you want to save the two women, you have to have yin and yang with them. Black Dragon did not lie to you. This is the only way. While Murong Yu was deep in thought, a slightly tired female voice sounded in his mind. Who are you? Murong Yu's face was gloomy, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. I am Huafeng, a member of the Phoenix clan. I was the one who summoned that girl. However, I was too slow to react to the pink morning, and that despicable black dragon secretly took action. Huafeng's voice was tired and weak, as if she had no strength to speak. Huafeng? A member of the Phoenix clan? Did you summon Jiqing over? Murong Yu's heart trembled. His guess wasn't wrong. Moreover, Huafeng was not the only person in this palace. There was also Black Dragon. It was the despicable Black Dragon that Huafeng spoke of that had secretly taken action, causing Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing to be poisoned by the pink morning. That bastard! As a senior, he's actually so despicable and shameless. Murong Yu gnashed his teeth inwardly, wishing he could slap Hei Long to death. Why did you summon Jiqing? Murong Yu's voice. Inheritance. Let her accept my inheritance, and this underground palace is my palace. Young man, your two women aren't going to last much longer. If you still don't take action, I'm afraid they'll lose their lives. After Huafeng said a few simple words, she urged Murong Yu and Zhao Jiqing to mediate. Damn you, Black Dragon! Sooner or later, I'll grind your bones to dust. Murong Yu roared in his heart as his figure flashed and entered the He-Tu and Luo Shu world. As soon as he appeared beside Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing, the two naked women wrapped themselves around him. Their white bodies stimulated Murong Yu's eyes, and the lust in his heart quickly exploded. Jiqing, Mengqing, I'm sorry. Murong Yu growled. He could not hold back any longer, and he pounced on Yu Mengqing. Since this was the only way to get rid of the pink morning, Murong Yu did not want the two women to die. He had no choice but to get on the horse. Even if the two women blamed him afterwards, Murong Yu would accept it. After all, no matter what, their lives were the most important. Logically speaking, Murong Yu should have done it with Zhao Jiqing first. However, he pounced on Yu Mengqing directly. Did this mean that Murong Yu liked Yu Mengqing more? In reality, this was not the case. Whether it was Yu Mengqing or Murong Yu, who had slept with Murong Yu before, the two of them were far inferior to Zhao Jiqing in Murong Yu's heart. In Murong Yu's heart, Zhao Jiqing would always be the most important person. The reason why he pounced on Yu Mengqing was because Yu Mengqing's strength was lower. After being hit by the pink morning, the medicinal effects were more violent than Zhao Jiqing's. There was almost no foreplay. Murong Yu almost immediately got on the horse. To Yu Mengqing, Murong Yu, who had experienced it once, was obviously an expert. Yu Mengqing frowned slightly. However, under the effects of the pink morning, Yu Mengqing's actions were frantic and she screamed crazily. During this process, Zhao Jiqing also pestered him and kept demanding. Murong Yu did not enjoy it. Instead, he kept an eye on the two women. When he saw that Yu Mengqing's frenzy had subsided a little, he left Yu Mengqing and turned around to carry Zhao Jiqing. He immediately got on the horse. In an instant, the sound of the zither and the zither resonated. The entire space was filled with a lewd atmosphere. After 1 day and 1 night, the two women finally fell asleep with their screams. The effects of the pink morning also finally subsided. 1 day and 1 night. Murong Yu wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Thinking back to the day and night of madness, he still felt a little helpless. If he was not different from ordinary people, he would not have been able to last for so long. If he could not make the two women come out, the effects of the pink morning would not be removed. After looking at the two women who had fallen asleep, Murong Yu sat down cross-legged. After 1 day and 1 night of madness, Murong Yu did not only feel pleasure, but he also felt his strength had improved a little. Rumble. Not long after, he finally broke through to the early stage of the overarching heavenly supreme celestial stage. After breaking through, Murong Yu's strength continued to rise. Soon after, he broke through to the intermediate stage of the overarching heavenly supreme celestial stage. After an unknown period of time, Murong Yu's strength finally stopped rising. His cultivation base had also stabilized at the late stage of the overarching heavenly supreme celestial stage. After 1 day and 1 night of madness, his strength had increased by 1 stage. He was now a late-stage overarching heavenly supreme celestial. He was only 1 step away from becoming a great overarching golden celestial. Only after becoming a great overarching golden celestial could one be considered an expert in the celestial world. Murong Yu could only look at this last step and sigh. In terms of cultivation base, there was still a gap between him and a true powerhouse. He could only be considered a minor powerhouse. While Murong Yu was breaking through, the two girls who had been nourished by Murong Yu were still in a deep sleep. However, their strength was slowly changing as well. Murong Yu chuckled inwardly when he sensed the changes in his and the two women's strength. He thought to himself, "Is this the effect of dual cultivation?" Then, he shook his head. He knew that the breakthrough in his strength this time was not entirely due to the effect of dual cultivation. It was due to the two women's primordial yin that he had obtained. If he allowed the 3 of them to continue their madness for another day and night, it would not have such an effect. The 2 women were still unconscious and had not woken up. Moreover, their strength was still rising. Murong Yu looked at the 2 women. When he did not see anything unusual about them, he withdrew his divine sense. "I'm a late-stage, overarching, heavenly supreme celestial. When I was a late-stage mystic celestial, I already had 2,200 dragons of energy. How much dragon energy do I have now?" Murong Yu's figure flashed and disappeared from where he stood, reappearing in another space between he two and Luo Shu. Rumble. As soon as Murong Yu appeared, the silhouettes of coiling dragons appeared above his head. 1,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 4,500. It did not take long before 4,500 silhouettes of coiling dragons appeared above Murong Yu's head. In other words, his strength had more than doubled. His true strength was now a 9 heavens mystic celestial. An ordinary overarching heavenly supreme celestial would only have the strength of 1 to 1,000 coiling dragons. Even a great overarching golden celestial would only have between 1,000 to 3,000 coiling dragons. A 9 heavens mystic celestial was considered an elite in the celestial realm. Their strength was second only to celestial kings. Their strength was between 3,000 to 6,000 coiling dragons. A 9 heavens mystic celestial with 5,000 coiling dragons was considered an elite among 9 heavens mystic celestials. Murong Yu was an overarching heavenly supreme celestial, yet he had achieved 4,500 points of coiling dragon power. Although his cultivation base was not at the level of an expert in the celestial realm, his strength could be considered an ordinary expert in the celestial realm. He was even stronger than an ordinary 9 heavens Xian celestial. 4,500 coiling dragons of energy. My strength has more than doubled. My life force has also increased. If I treat Brother Shangguan in my current state, I don't think I'll need half the time. Even if it's Guanjia, I can give it a try. Murong Yu thought to himself. At this moment, the tree of life in his dantian had grown again. It had grown from 100,000 miles to 200,000 miles. Every second, the amount of chaotic energy absorbed from the void was several times more than before, or even 10 times more. My body has been strengthened again. After the heavenly tribulation, my body should be able to become a grade 8 celestial weapon. At this rate, my body should be as strong as a royal weapon by the time I become a 9 heavens mystic celestial. Murong Yu was quite satisfied with his breakthrough. In terms of strength, it's still passable. However, my lifespan has increased to 100 billion years. I guess I've lived a long life, right? Murong Yu chuckled with a lewd smile on his face. An ordinary overarching heavenly supreme celestial only had a lifespan of 1 billion years. However, Murong Yu's lifespan was 100 times longer than an ordinary overarching heavenly supreme celestial. He had the lifespan of a 9 heavens mystic celestial. This was extremely terrifying. The longer Murong Yu's lifespan, the greater his future achievements would be. After all, as long as one had a long lifespan, one's strength would increase. In the same realm, the longer Murong Yu's lifespan, the more powerful he would be. Thus, he would have fewer misgivings when doing things. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.